We just admit a bunch of people here.
All right. I'm gonna call the Village of Cross Plains Planning Commission of July 7th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Cree, Commissioner Thusius,
Here.
Commissioner
Here.
Trustee Brochus,
Here.
Trustee Kettleby, President Langfeld.
Here. Please stand for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're at public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to plan commission on any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the plan commission encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. I would suggest we're here to talk about Marchstone, wait for the public hearing. There's a little bit more flexibility with. So is there anybody here that would like to make a public comment? All right, is there anybody on the internet that would like to?
It looks like everyone is still muted.
We'll go to general business.
Okay. Oh, hi.
Hello?
Okay,
Hi. Is there a way that you would like us to take turns or?
so this
Just
would
jump
be,
in.
are you hoping to speak about something not about Marchstone? Because the Marchstone public hearing is still coming up.
Oh, okay. I'll wait.
Okay,
And then just so you do order, we'll just put your hand up in the chat and then we'll get people one at a time because it's not going to be a discussion. It'll be just statement.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You bet. All right, we'll go to general business. The first one is approval of the minutes from the June 2nd, 2025 Plan Commission meeting. Do I have a motion? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. So moved. All right, number 2, Graphic Ingenuity Property / Marchstone Phase 1. We'll take this in 2 sections. The first will be the public hearing. Do I have a motion to go?
I'll make a motion to go into public hearing.
Second. All right, I have a motion and a second to go into public hearing. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Cree,
Yes.
Commissioner Thusius,
Yes.
Commissioner Hillenbrand,
Yes.
Trustee Brochus,
Yes.
Trustee Kettlebeater,
Yes.
President Langfeld.
Yes. All right, we're opening up the public hearing. Would
Yep.
you like to do the computer first or the people here?
Could I read the comments first, or would you like to do that last?
No, that's.
We've got,
It doesn't matter what.
they're all gonna happen tonight.
Yeah, so go ahead and do the reading first.
Okay, sounds good. And then I have Joanna, she'll be timing, so 3 minutes for everyone that is speaking tonight. Okay, so the first one I have is from Jocelyn Wilkie. She's at 1252 Gills Way. One of my questions is what Cross Plains is going to do to protect our water sources from the water runoff from the golf course that they are planning to install in this subdivision. Golf courses are notorious for causing large amounts of herbicide and pesticides into water sources, which of course is our communal water source in the village. There have been links to Parkinson's and cancer living near golf courses, likely because of the runoff of these chemicals, if not contained, and that needs to be planned for. I am sure this will also come up, but I would appreciate them just commenting on how they plan to integrate the large volume of children from the subdivision into a school district with already taxed resources, as well as how they plan on dealing with the increased traffic this will cause. I am sure I am not alone in thinking this takes more from our community than it provides. That's the end of the first one. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah.
Kelly Unger from 603 Dale Court. As a resident of the Village of Cross Plains, I would like to see our board and plan commission bring more affordable housing to the village. I don't believe the Marchstone development will bring this. I am also opposed to the development's proposed golf course. Golf courses like the one being proposed use more than 100,000 gallons of water each day. If we as a community are serious about fighting climate change, reducing water usage, and protecting Black Earth Creek, we should not build a golf course. There are many other golf courses in the area that residents use. Thank you. And ready for the next one? All right, Vicky Full from 3015 Shady Circle. The proposed Marchstone development should not be approved if it does not provide road access from Highway 14. As it is, it would route too much traffic past Glacier Creek Middle School, Bear Park, and the future pool site. The Village of Cross Plains official map shows proposed future access from Highway 14. This road access is needed if you are adding this much housing. They provided. Phase 1 should not be approved without road access being resolved. The plan also lacks plans for parks besides stating dedicated to the public. The golf course is not suitable for community park spaces. The field at Glacier Creek is already used as a de facto off-leash dog area, and the path around the field on the east side of Bear Park has unleashed dogs daily. An off-leash dog area should be considered. If there is enough space for a golf course, there's enough space for a dog area and playgrounds, recreational uses. Oh, she has a little bit more. Environmental impacts should also be carefully considered. Future phases of the project will remove massive amounts of trees. The golf course will have fertilizer, pesticide runoff. The water in Cross Plains already has higher nitrate levels in legal range. The village should also be wary of the developer changing plans and reducing the size of the golf course. If we are allowing a golf course, it should be one that will actually attract people to the area to benefit local businesses. That's hand on that one.
Okay.
All right. Abigail Roybal on 2204 Spring Street. I have concerns regarding the impact of this project on our environment, taxes, school system, traffic, and community. I do recognize that there may also be some positive impact from the project and community growth, but believe that the negative impacts outweigh those. Right. Nathaniel Newby from 2121 Hillenbrand Drive. It should go without saying that we as a village should be protective of our natural resources. While I am not in opposition of expansion of this village, I am skeptical at best as to how the following stages of this serve our community. We sit with empty lots in existing subdivisions like Scenic Valley and Creek Crossing, but we're good with selling out a huge tract of subdivision with a homeowners association, page 216 of the commission packet, and a golf course with all the pesticide and herbicide runoff. This is antithetical to all the messaging we send continually about protecting our stretch of Black Earth Creek. Additionally, there is very little indication that the land being set aside as a golf course will bring any boon to the village. There are over a dozen golf courses within a 20-minute drive of Cross Plains. With the impending arrival of a top golf location in Madison in 2026, we have not seen enough businesses open and shutter in the village to think realistically that the golf course is a good plan. We can and should expand this village, but it needs to be responsibly. Don't sell the soul of the village for a handful of homes. Next one. Aaron Koskovich at 3061 Creekside Way. Hello, members of the Planning Commission, Village Board, and Village staff. Development in our community can be very exciting. However, looking at these plans, there are some concerning items that I think warrant additional conversation and additional planning. First, the traffic on Highway P or Church Street is heavy, especially at peak AM and PM times during the school year. Having been in that area consistently for a few years, we have a fairly significant safety issue. The area is consistently congested with buses, cars, and pedestrians. Our wonderful crossing guards I've seen narrowly be missed by cars on that area, children on bikes, and foot the same, adding strain to the area that I believe will only increase the chances for a devastating accident. A roundabout will not only impact homeowners in that area, their property values, but also likely isn't significant enough of a traffic flow change to create a safe environment to the school and houses surrounding the school. Therefore, I ask more thought be put into that prior to approving any plans considering traffic lights, one-ways, better lighting and signing, etc. There has to be a better solution. Second, traffic once off Highway P and Church Street by Glacier isn't much better. To help alleviate the strain, clear, wide streets that exit on Airport Road are a necessity. Airport Road currently sees a lot of pedestrian traffic with no sidewalks. I would ask that sidewalks for the whole span of village property be placed along Airport Road /Thinness to ensure that there is a safe place for bikers, pedestrians, and folks walking pets. Additional consideration of increased traffic on Airport Road, along with pedestrian crossings and potentially stoplights, should also be considered. The subdivision should also be subjected to wide ADA sidewalks and curbs. Things like lighting, sewer, and water infrastructure should also be made part of the developer's investment, not the village's. This includes another water tower if needed. Finally, the developer is well known to not only add golf courses and nice housing to developments, but also pools and clubhouses. I would ask that a stipulation be placed on the developer that at no point shall a pool, private, be allowed in the development. The village has long supported a pool and is in the process of planning and building for a new community pool facility. Cross Plains has a fantastic swim team. It is accessible and affordable asset to our community, and all efforts and focus for a pool should be one that is for the greater good of the entire community. Thank you for hearing my thoughts. I appreciate your service to our community and your thoughtful consideration of community input. All right, and then we've got Adam Wood at 603 Dale Court. I am opposed to the construction of the Marchstone development. Cross Plains is in need of affordable housing, not a golf course. Considering the amount of land that a golf course would take up and the water resources it would perpetually drain for its maintenance, it does not offer a benefit to Cross Plains. It caters only to a small fraction of the local population who already have a variety of existing golf courses in the area. I'm just going to take a sip of water. Okay. All right, I'm ready to go. Tyler Marshall from 2606 Twin Pine. Village Chair and Plan Commission members. Regarding stormwater management, Cross Plains holds Wisconsin's one-day rainfall record. 14.7 inches fell here on August 20 to 21st of 2018, flooding hundreds of homes and closing US Highway 14 for nearly a week. Converting 483 acres of farmland into roofs, streets, parking lots, and a golf course will replace our best natural sponge with hard surfaces, sending runoff more quickly into the Black Earth and Brewery Creeks and raising flood peaks for everyone downstream. I understand that a wastewater study was done, but using 100 and 200-year storm levels, do either of these models meet or exceed the amount of rainfall from the 2018 flooding? If not, I ask the Village Plan Commission. 1, request an independent watershed-wide flood model that includes rainfall equal to or greater than the 2018 storm, so approximately 15 inches in 24 hours. 2, require on-site retention size to at least the 2018 event. Wisconsin offers funds to offset study and construction costs to communities with the Act 265 Pre-Disaster Flood Resilience Grant Program. Note that Dane County decision makers routinely halt projects when flood danger is unresolved. In 2018, the Dane County Board denied a rezoning in the town of Roxbury because the site would likely flood. In February of 25, the Zoning and Land Regulation Committee postponed a site plan in the town of Christina after being warned most of the parcel lay in a mapped floodplain. Approving this development without ironclad flood protections risks repeating 2018 on a larger, costlier scale. And regarding increased traffic, I believe one of the sites proposed for the new Cross Plains Community Swimming Pool is the green space directly south of Glacial Creek Middle School, which would be accessed by Evergreen Parkway. Would the roadways and intersections discussed in the traffic plan be able to support another increase in traffic volume, or would this development in effect prohibit that site from being used for the new community pool? And regarding school facilities, Weiser Engineering estimates 80 additional school-aged children for this phase of development, 130 housing units using the student generation rate or SGR values from 0.5 to 0.7. Did Weiser provide any data about why they selected those SGR values? Did they provide comparables to other developments in Cross Plains, such as Glacier Ridge, Scenic Valley, and Creek Crossing? Because I would expect most of these new housing units to be filled by young families, where the US average is approximately 2 children per family. An estimate of an additional 180 to 230 students seems to be more likely than just 80, which is a substantial difference. What is the impact to our school facilities using? Okay, yeah, sounds good. All right, we are on to, I finished reading all the written comments. So should we move on to in-person comments?
So who would like to speak first? All right, come on up. Could you do me a favor and hit that button so it has a green light on it? So it's even. Yeah, and we need name and address.
Named Mark Mappett. I live in Madison. And I'm here to represent the written comments that Top Wells submitted, so I plan to read the letter that he submitted. He's the president of the Southern Wisconsin chapter of Trout Unlimited. The Southern Wisconsin chapter of Trout Unlimited has grave concerns regarding the proposed development of the Plastic Ingenuity property. The property with its steep wooded hillsides, the vital groundwater recharge area for Vesky Spring and Black Earth Creek. The Vesky Spring is vitally important to Black Earth Creek. It transforms the creek into an excellent trout stream. In the spring, if the spring is compromised or degraded or its capacity diminished, the creek will suffer. A functioning and intact recharge area is extremely important to the health of the spring and of the stream. Southern Wisconsin Trout Unlimited deeply appreciates the village's care of Black Earth Creek over the years. We have assisted in some of those activities. We respectfully request that the village continue its stewardship in its evaluation and decisions regarding the proposed development of the Plastic Ingenuity property. Specifically, we ask that the Planning Commission not recommend nor the village board approve any development of that site unless and until they have received explicit professional expert judgments that the development will not impair the spring or Black Earth Creek. Seeking such expertise will probably take some time and funds. We believe the extraordinary value of the Vesky Spring and Black Earth Creek as natural resources and the importance of the creek to the residents of the village justify that effort. The developer should be responsible for funding some or all of that analysis. So thank you for your consideration of this request and for your care and protection of Black Earth Creek. Respectfully submitted, Top Wells.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? Come on up, Bob.
My name's Bob Green. I reside at 39-4 Creekside Way, and have some experience with the school district. There's a talk about the number of kids showing up with the 80 units coming in through. Then we treat about 0.7 kids per household. However, that's somewhat impacted by the fact that depending on the pricing of the homes, we may not see first starter homes, but we may see second homes where somebody comes into the secondary family, which will have a higher impact on our middle schools versus our elementary schools. So, but let's say 50 kids, even at the elementary school divided by 4, it's about 10 kids per class. It could be an impact, but we'll most likely see a larger impact at the middle and the high school level. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Come on up.
Yeah, those are 15 pages. Oh. There's a few pages or so, with 2 sections. I just handed out written version of what I'm going to speak about. And also the Black Earth Creek Watershed Association helped report just a copy of that. My name is Andy Morton, and I'm representing the Black Earth Creek Watershed Association. We appreciate the opportunity to provide comments on the preliminary plat proposal for phase 1 of the milestone. The Village of Cross Plains and many others value Black Earth Creek. For other organizations and people, the Village of Cross Plains values this creek extremely. It is classified by the DNR as an outstanding resource water and class 1 trout fishery. One of the most productive trout fisheries in the Midwest, it was listed as one of the 100 best trout streams in the nation. The creek is used extensively by paddlers, hikers, anglers, and visitors.
There's been a big public and private investment in Blackbird Creek. The Trout Days event sponsored by the village and the Cross Plains Lions Club. And the Zandvoort Park Channel Reconstruction Project costing in excess of $800,000 attest to the value of Blackbird Creek to the community. Millions of dollars over the years have been spent on public access, fishery habitat, and pollution control. Further, Cross Plains has agreed to implement the green infrastructure for water quality protection and flood reduction. The Cross Plains also has an MS4 permit that applies to managing the stormwater discharge from Blackbird Creek, which attests to their stewardship. Cross Plains has a legacy of stormwater management. Cross Plains proactively led the way, along with Travel Country Engineering, for decades to install state-of-the-art stormwater management practices, even before they were required. Green infrastructure keeps springs flowing, protect Blackbird Creek water quality, and may reduce flooding downstream. Installing green infrastructure allows more water to soak into the ground and can decrease the amount of water flowing rapidly downstream during high water or flood event. We appreciate the developers planning to infiltrate 96% of the post-available runoff. Even so, consider installing additional infiltration practices so that optimal groundwater recharge is maintained and achieve 100% infiltration. Managing fertilizer and pesticide use. We request that fertilizer and pesticide use be managed to prevent negative impacts to groundwater or surface water during the development. Please consider pesticide and fertilizer standards for homeowners, and there are standards for landscaping, weed control, and many other elements of the proposed homeowner agreement. Overall hydrologic analysis. Even with stormwater management at specific sites, we recommend an overall hydrological.
Andy, we're gonna have to cut you off. Sorry, it's 3 minutes.
What's that?
We're gonna have to cut you off. It was 3 minutes.
Okay.
But Andy, can I have your last name? I mean, your address?
More.
No, the address, your address.
My address, okay, 6601 Piedmont Road, Madison, Wisconsin.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thanks,
Thank
Andy.
you, Andy. Would someone like to speak? All right, oh, I'm sorry, come on up. No, we're keeping it live.
Hi, Julius Smith, 3061 Creekside Way, Cross Plains. I just want to talk to the board. Mostly, we're looking at a preliminary plat and want to remind everyone here that by 236, the preliminary plat review is actually more important than the final plat review. You are given the approval if the final plat is in compliance with the preliminary plat. So whenever we want to condition anything on, all of that has to be conditioned at the time of the preliminary plat. That being said, looking at some of the issues of the development, there are proposed officially mapped streets or roads out here. One of them is shown as 100-foot wide connection to Airport Road. I don't know, I was looking at the plat, it was not 100 feet wide as everything was extended. I noticed that the extension to 14 is not really in the preliminary plat design as well. That's terminating in golf course lands currently. Looking at that there's fire troubles, I feel, in the current development that's over there off of Evergreen as it is. You go to school time, how does a fire truck get into that neighborhood right now? I think public service should be taking a look at this plat and giving some comments on how there's no second access. The only way to get to this and this plat and that other plat Viridian did is through P. You know, you have to drive up P and get there somehow. If you look at this road system, there's no second entry into this for a fire truck. I don't like that. One of the other things, just looking at it, it looks like there's a roundabout being planned on P. I don't know if that's gonna require any condemnation or taking. I don't know how that's gonna go over, but maybe not doing that and looking at condemning the connections you could look at for 14 down to 14 and looking over at Airport Road and condemning that way if you're gonna use condemnation powers. These are some of the comments I have.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on up.
Sarah Aker, 6722 Woodland Drive, former lifelong resident of Cross Plains, but since I guess people more. Also the president of CP Riders Snowmobile Club in Cross Plains. We obviously don't have. We have a lot of issues, but our main issue is being able to reroute our snowmobile trail across that lower field and being able to cross any longer, because it will go through that lower field that we currently access off of Airport Road that comes towards Glacier Creek. Obviously, we lose the trail that comes through PI completely, but we're working on workarounds on that, but biggest concern is not being able to have any access into Cross Plains from the Ashton area and connecting trails there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on up.
My name is Mark Fitzgerald. I'm the vice president of the CP Riders Snowmobile Club. 2026 Continental Lane. I have a few maps that are all in here just so you can see what we're talking about. That shows what the current trail system goes across PI land, which we're very thankful for. They let us use over the years. That shows the impact of the trail with home sites on there. It's a state funded corridor. It's important to us. During some low snow years, if you step back 2 years ago, we had hundreds of sleds coming through promoting tourism in this area. I talked to people from Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, and Iowa that all came here to ride our trails. We were the only ones that were open. I just asked if you take this into consideration with the potential development of this property. I'd like to see it, maybe have a multi-use trail going through it, if it is for hiking, biking, snowmobiling. You look at the pillars on Highway 14, you come into town, you see 4 icons up. You see a person hiking, you see trout, you see a biker, you see a snowmobile. So this has to be taken into consideration. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Anybody else? Come on up.
Hello there.
Hello.
I'm Amber Field. I live at 3012 Shady Circle, so I'm in that neighborhood that's right south of the school right now. I echo a couple of the concerns that have been brought up. Mainly the access out of that neighborhood. Right now, I can't pick up a kid after school, the middle school, and get them into Middleton by 4 p.m. We just can't get out of our neighborhood fast enough. So we need that. Also, the pesticides from the golf course highly concern me. So much so that I probably would move out if the golf course came because I'd be scared for my family's health. Even if we put a bunch of things in place, we know what pesticides do. Now, anything that we put into the village that's for public use should really benefit the people of this village, in my opinion. High-end golf course is probably going to be too pricey for most of the people that live here. So a couple of things that we could do to make it a little bit better for us, putting in some paths would be great so that we could walk around and use the space. Discounts for people that live in the village would be nice as well. The other thing is we have read in earlier packets that the developer would try to be preserving as many trees as possible, which is awesome. But my questions are, who's going to make sure that they do that? And what's going to happen if we find that those trees that they plan to preserve are going to, are chopped down? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, come on up. Whoa, you all right?
Try to figure out.
the way you're
I'm getting
doing.
up to the excited. My name is Kelly Robinson. I live at 3014 Sheen Circle. We do have a couple of concerns about everything. As Amber spoke about the traffic pattern coming out of that neighborhood by the school, there's atrocious, and I don't know if a traffic circle really is gonna be a very good solution there. I just can't see it with the trucks and the buses and everything. I have to go through there all the time. And it really is just those 2 times a day that the traffic is horrible, but either way, that's a concern. I have a concern about the stormwater management, and basically who from the village is gonna be holding the developer accountable for the grading and drainage. Where I live, the Veridian developer, they screwed up multiple houses. It ultimately affected our house. So I mean, 2 feet off, a couple houses up, and so, you know, our streets are only so long. But if you have a huge development like that and nobody's checking these grading and drainage, it's gonna have a cumulative effect. And so my concern is who from the village or who in general is holding the developer accountable to all this stormwater management. Just because there's only so where it's all gonna collect at one point, and I don't want that to be a problem because some of that Twin Valley area is kind of a low point there, and they already had problems with the last big rainfall, so that's a big concern. Also curious as to who's gonna be paying for all of the new infrastructure, and I just wanna make sure that the village is not gonna be held accountable financially. I think that's something that the developer should pay all of. I mean, just because they're bringing tax revenue, we shouldn't be paying for a water tower, we shouldn't be paying for that, so they want to build here, they should build their infrastructure. And then the last concern I have is, just this ties into the other thing with the EMS changes being proposed. If services needs are up by 7 to 8%, I just want to make sure that all the things that the village does, you know, coordinates with each other. And if you're going to increase needs for service, that we keep all of our services strong and as they are.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Dennis Meyer. I'm online.
Hang on, we're doing people in person first, then we'll get.
Okay.
Yep. That way I can keep some control. Anybody else here? All right, so now we're gonna be going to the people that are on the internet, and how we'll do this is Carly will, if you have a hand up, I think is how they do it, she'll call you, then you can do your 3-minute, statement.
All right, so the first person I see on my screen is Jeff D. If you could provide your name and address and then your comment.
Good evening, Jeff Davis, Airport Road, 8920. Taking a look at your packet, and I was more interested in the traffic study. The traffic study where you've got whoever did the study, 7 hours is a traffic study. I beg to differ that. I also, in your traffic study, they're estimating during the peak hours, 500 and 300, I believe it was, additional vehicles on Airport Road. That's just during peak hours. So you're looking at putting 1,000 vehicles per day on Airport Road, in addition to what they are currently have for traffic on Airport Road. I'm opposed to any of that. We live just outside the village, and when the town redid Airport Road, we had a sign put in there for hidden driveways for my driveway and my neighbors because people fly into Cross Plains. And now we're going to add another 1,000 vehicles. I'm opposed to it. I would be more supportive of it if the developer would actually take it to the state of Wisconsin and build an access off of Highway 14. Whether it involves a roundabout, or traffic lights, or whatever, it's got to be channeled somewhere else in Airport Road. The second item is that they were talking about Oak Valley Estates or whatever off 14. I bet those people are really happy that they're going to increase and dump all that traffic that way too. So my recommendation is have a legitimate traffic study done other than just 7 hours or 1 day, and monitor the traffic coming in on Airport Road at the village limits, not at County P and Tennis Street or the end of Airport Road. Thanks for allowing me my comments.
Thank you.
Next on my screen, I see Audrey Rice. Name and address, please.
Thank you. My name is Audrey Rice. I'm at 2712 Astor Street here in Cross Plains. I've been a resident for 13 years and I really care about this community and I especially care about the safety of my neighbors. So I'm here tonight to talk about the Marchstone development, but its connection to our plans regarding EMS services. These two issues, land development and emergency response, they may seem separate, but they're deeply interconnected. The Marchstone project will add hundreds of new homes and a golf course, which will significantly increase our population and traffic. So this means more emergency calls, for medical issues, accidents, public safety, and so on. And timing is extremely important. So this is going to place a greater demand on our EMS system. And at the very moment, we are considering withdrawing or restructuring our current districts. So I'm here to ask, how will EMS be expanded to serve this new growth if we move forward? I'm sure others are interested to know who will pay for it. And then what happens to response times and service quality if the village leaves the share system, loses mutual aid support, and suddenly operates independently while this large development is underway? The community deserves clear answers to these questions before any final decisions are made on either front. So I really encourage the village to provide an updated public safety impact assessment. The one currently outlined shows numbers from 2023, which showed 463 responses. But for 2024, which is not included in the assessment, we actually had 522 responses. And that's the second time we've hit the 500 number. So we are rapidly expanding. And that's really concerning with the restructure and including new developments. So I also ask or urge the village to require the developer, if we move forward, to contribute to this infrastructure funding, regardless, because we will have increased calls, and then delay any decision about leaving the district until there is transparent actual plan for how we'll meet the rising demand. We can't afford to grow without a solid plan for how emergency care will be kept. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. I see Dennis Meyer next. Name and address, please.
Dennis Meyer, 2829 Church Street. And I live directly across from the exit from the middle school. And when they added the new development with 80 homes or whatever back there, traffic was just horrendous before when school was getting in and out. And other times when they're doing different games, football games or whatever. But it's impossible to back out of my driveway pretty much when, school starts or when school ends. So if you're going to add a bunch more people, and if this is the point you're planning on putting the roundabout, I got a question is, how are you planning on doing it? I don't see how you do it. When we redid the road several years back, they put in infrastructure for stoplights. Why don't we use the stoplights before we try something more radical like a traffic circle? I mean, that was already thought of, and I've been asking for it since they put the school in over there. It's ridiculous. I agree with everybody that's saying let the developers pay for some of the infrastructure that we're going to need, like a larger, sewer system and greater water capacity and reducing the runoff chemicals. And what about this, supposed connection to Highway 14? We've got one way into this here in the development. If there's a problem where people are trying to get out and an emergency vehicle has to get in, they're stuck. It doesn't make sense to have only one entrance and one exit. When they built the school, I assumed that they were going to have an exit out onto highway or out onto Airport Road. Well, that didn't happen. So we ended up with all the traffic coming our way. I'm opposed to a traffic circle. I'll tell you right now, I have a hard enough time getting out of my driveway without somebody putting a traffic circle in front of my house. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on my screen, I see Alex Paisley Lasso. Can I
Hello.
address too, please?
Yep. So my name's Alex Paisley Lasso. I live at 3018 Shady Circle, so in the neighborhood by the middle school with many of the folks on the line. Really want to reiterate just a couple points that folks have already made. One is around the concern of impact from a golf course. So the most recent study that came out and was published by the American Medical Association says that there's a 126% risk increase for Parkinson's disease for residences within a mile from a golf course. So I think just some consideration there around how this development would mitigate those impacts in terms of either more in-depth studies showing the impact or restrictions that will keep them from impacting this community, as well as the creek and the water resources that many folks have brought up already. The second point I'd like to reiterate is around the resources that will be utilized by this and how they likely won't benefit the entire community. So just ways that we can take advantage of this development to increase the infrastructure that will serve the whole community. Things that we've heard already today, such as the traffic study, a public safety study for our EMS access to the increased volume of residents. If we need to put in another water tower. Someone mentioned earlier how this primary study is kind of the most important time to really ask for what we want because the final is just confirming the primary. So I'd really encourage the village and folks involved with this to think about the overall health of our village and making sure that we are asking from the developer for not only the most robust and appropriate studies showing the correct impacts, but also to help fund any mitigation strategies that we need to put in place. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else online that would like to provide a comment? Please raise your hand. I'm not seeing anyone else, Jay.
All right. And anybody here? All right, so do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion to close public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. So moved. All right, we're at number 2, discussion and possible action regarding approval of the preliminary plat. You guys want to come up?
Sure. Move this chair. Yeah, just on this.
Darren?
Well, I'll let you start and then we can get right into it.
All right, sounds good. My name's Jeff Hain. My son Kyle and I are developers of Marchstone. Hopefully, we've Adam Watkins from Wiser Engineering with us. Who's done all the engineering on the development. Before I'm gonna get into what I was gonna talk about, I'd like to address a lot of the comments so far. As far as infrastructure, some comments were made that the village shouldn't participate in any of it. The cost, and that's 100% correct. We will pay for everything that affects our development. Our fair share of water tower, sewer and water, sidewalks, roads, the whole, everything. So the folks that spoke about this shouldn't cost the village any money. As far as we're concerned, it's not. We're paying for everything we're installing and what we need to meet all village ordinances and requirements. So rest assured that that is by us. As far as the stormwater being installed per plan, we obviously propose, the village engineer reviews and approves. And there's a lot of inspections done during development, and we will not get the ability to get building permits without the village sign off on everything. So, the development isn't gonna be as good as what we do, it's gonna be as good as what the village engineer or inspection folks do. What I'll tell you is, we do own currently Hawks Landing Golf Course and Pioneer Point. And I can tell you in 40 years of development, we have never put more stormwater facilities in as Pioneer Point. It's very similar to what we're encountering here with our first phase. A lot of water, this is a low area, a lot of water comes to it. So we are responsible for a lot of offsite water, as we were at Pioneer Point. And I think if anybody has any concerns, they should touch base with the town of Middleton to see if we did what we were supposed to and everything's functioning properly. Quite honestly, you know, a development like this, there is a lot of trust both ways. What I can tell you, we wouldn't be sitting in front of you today if Kyle wasn't fourth generation. I've been doing this for over 40 years. We know what we have to do and we get it done. We've never had a development get in trouble. We've always worked well with municipalities. I don't see this as any different. You know, I don't want to really come off harsh, but we've had a lot of meetings with the committees of the village. And one of our early chats was about Highway 14 connection. If it's ultimately discussed and a requirement, this project cannot go forward. The cost for the connection on Highway 14 would be a lot of money. We would have to route a road right through the golf course, which we then lose those poles that we'd have to put elsewhere, which then means we lose lots. So from an economic standpoint, again, this isn't a threat by any means. It's a concern that's been addressed and we understand it. We've looked at it. What a lot of folks don't know is we tried to get a connection through the town property. We understand that they didn't like it, and quite honestly, we agree with it. I wouldn't like it either, but we tried to get something that's called a safety gate, which is a gate that's in place always. But in the time of an event of an EMS vehicle or a need, that gate can come down and the vehicles can go back and forth. And then when that is over, they put the gate back up and traffic does not go into the town area. We thought it was a great compromise for a second exit for emergency vehicles. The town did not like that idea. We met with them or talked to them. The village talked to them and we didn't get very far with that. So we tried to go that way, it did not work. Big thing is chemicals. As I said, we own Hawks Landing Golf Course and Pioneer Point Golf Course. Hawks Landing will be 25 years old next year. We've never been cited by the DNR for any issues with our pesticide program. You know, bottom line, they're needed. And without the proper maintenance of a golf course, it's gonna fail. And kind of segue to the golf course, what we will tell you is this will be one of the better golf courses. I mean, it's a strong statement because Wisconsin golf is so good, but this will be a top 20 golf course in the state of Wisconsin. So folks talked about this golf course only going to benefit a select few. We don't see it that way. This is going to be a destination golf course. We're going to get people coming from all over, southern Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois. We kind of call this golf course for golfers that are out there, Sand Valley meets Pinehurst. We're going to have a 1.5 to 2 acre putting green that will be open to the village. So someone talked about no benefit to the village. This putting green is a social event for everyone. It'll be free of charge. What you'll see is people just coming as families, as couples, 2 couples, 8 couple, and they'll stay there for 2 or 3 hours just playing this putting course. And, you know, it's something we'll talk about later about parkland dedication. We feel strongly, as long as this is a public golf course, which it will be, and we have this amenity, we need to get some credit from a park fee standpoint, because this will be used by the village. I mark my words, if this project goes through, you will see a lot of your neighbors out at this putting green. The pesticides and herbicides, this study that's out there pertaining to Parkinson's is a 10-year-old study. It's not very inclusive. And we had the same concerns from our Pioneer Point neighborhood. We had Dr. Paul Koch from the UW, who is nationally renowned. This is what he does, speak to our Pioneer Point residents. We felt very confident and comfortable after that. More than happy to get him on a Zoom for the village because we understand the concern. But right now, we have probably the best superintendent in the state of Wisconsin. He's very aware of the chemicals. What I'll tell you is very interesting. We put less chemicals on our golf courses than most people that have lawn services put on their lawns. Because we have a lawn service, they leave their detail of what they did that day. I showed it to our superintendent, and he said, we use less than what's going on your lawn. So the folks that are concerned, which is a legitimate concern, and have a lawn service, check with them. See what they're putting on your lawn and see how that really affects what's going on. Because a lot of what's in the village right now isn't collected into retention ponds and infiltration ponds. Ours will be. So, you know, there's a lot going on that people kind of read something on the internet and it's a buzz, but they really need to do some background. They can't just read this and say Parkinson's, 123% increase. It's just an unfair statement without really investigating what that means.
It gets into restricted use chemicals, right? There's a lot of talk about this study. I don't believe there was any. There's a couple products that I've mentioned, but having this Dr. Paul Koch on this Zoom meeting with the neighborhood, basically he reiterated the fact that he's very aware of Neil's program. Neil serves on Wisconsin Turfgrass Association in the state of Wisconsin. OJ Norris is right next door to Hawks Landing. Our superintendent is in constant contact with those guys. In his, I don't want to speak for him because I am not a doctor, but his plan is very safe. There's no restricted use chemicals. So again, it's legitimate concern. And Dr. Paul Koch said, I'm not a toxicologist, but there's a lot left unknown in that study that, people really wanted to dive deep into. It'd be blood samples, it would be urine samples, it'd be a lot more in-depth study than just what came out.
Thanks, Kyle. Affordable housing, not even sure what that means anymore. With construction costs and finance costs. But when we first came in front of the village, they wanted, we had larger lots and they wanted smaller lots. And something we haven't done in 40 years. But this plat has lots in the 8,000 square foot range. You're not, and at our prices, we're in the 140s to 150s. You go right down the road, right down Old Sauk Road, the same lot's gonna be $220,000. So, we're pricing our lots very fairly. Again, I'm not saying that's affordable because I don't really know what the definition of affordable, but what I can tell you is we're gonna be less expensive for a better development than what's right up the street. Along with that request was some multi-family, not in the sense of 3 or 4 story buildings. But we did come back with, I believe, 26 or 27 duplex lots. Our current proposed plat, what you'll see is a lot smaller lots now. So we'll be looking for the 0 lot line zoning, which again is going to help keep the cost of the home down. So from our standpoint, short of getting a affordable housing person in here, with larger buildings, because they're gonna need 2 or 3 stories and everything else that goes with those buildings. We think we've done what's appropriate for the village. Traffic study, I'm not an engineer and I don't pretend to be. What I can tell you is it's a requirement of the village. We did it. That was their recommendation. You know, so we're all ears. But from a developer standpoint, we've done what the village has requested for a requirement of us. Park space, as I talked, I think we'll need to further talk about our putting green. We think we could argue the driving range also, because that will be a cost. It'll be an amenity that the village can use. Dog park, it's been discussed. It is still not off the table. There's a lot of land we're not developing. And if we can fit in a dog park, we'd love to do it. We love dogs, and we're all for incorporating a dog park into this development. Again, it was mentioned that the golf course isn't going to attract anybody outside the village, but then it's gonna be too expensive for the village. We definitely like the idea of a reduced rate for the village. We're okay with that. And again, I see this really benefiting Main Street, Cross Plains, with people that are becoming here. You know, on the honest, you know, I'm not speaking for the village, what they want or don't want, but the reality is, if we did do a golf course, we could probably put another 300 or 400 homes in. So now I don't know, to me, the golf course is open space. And to me, it's a better development versus 700 or 800 homes. Not saying that would get approved, but that would be the alternative. Sidewalks on Finnis, I believe in the staff comments, and somebody mentioned it tonight. There is a 10-foot path on Finnis that will accommodate both bikes and pedestrians. So that is part of what we're doing. We have no problem putting in the developers agreement that we will not build a pool. We don't want a pool. And we're very excited about the village's proposed pool, and really hope that goes through, because it's only good for us. Comment was made that we needed to meet, and I don't even know what that would mean, 2000 or standards for stormwater to take into account the 2018 floods. You know, I'm not an engineer, but that probably means the whole site's stormwater. You know, it's just impossible. And there's no restriction in the United States, I would guess, that has that. Will definitely meet all the village and state requirements on stormwater. And again, what we did over at Pioneer, if you want to go look at all the ponds and the infiltrations, I think you should, because there's a lot. So Adams firm does a nice job. They know what they're doing, and we're confident that our stormwater will take care of everything we need to.
I can have one thing to that,
You
Joe.
bet.
Yeah, so the current considerations for the stormwater management ponds will be up through the 100-year storm event. And then there'll be a minimum opening elevation on the plat that comes from 200-year storm elevation will be 2 feet above that for each of the lots that are adjacent to stormwater facilities. So for this development, there will be a stormwater management report, which accounts for all the site runoff and the existing and proposed condition. We'll be reducing the rates up to the 100-year storm for that. We'll be providing over 90%, trying to get to 100% for infiltration, reducing the runoff rate in TSS, sediment control. So all those will be factored into the development's stormwater management agreement. In addition to that, we're doing flood study that accounts for the water that comes through the site from offsite to the east. And that will also account for emergency event to ensure that the lands downstream are not impacted by this.
Another comment that was made tonight was that Dane County does not need another golf course. I think that person really needs to investigate most of the golf courses in Dane County. COVID was a terrible thing, but it was really good for golf. I will tell you, if you looked at all the private clubs, there's a waiting list at every club. So that benefits definitely Pleasant View and University Ridge, along with the city courses. But I would strongly disagree that Dane County does not need another golf course. And the quality that we're gonna be putting out there is gonna be quite impressive. So, and then the other thing that I would disagree with is somebody said that this development will be majority young families. I would totally agree that our first phase with the smaller lots will be. But as we go into, future phases to the south, lots get a little bit bigger. And it's very interesting, Pioneer Point will be very similar in lot sizes. I would say it's about 50-50 between young families and empty nesters or retirees. So, you know, early on, the school, projections are probably correct, but I think the further development goes, that proration or per household, would go down. All right, that's that. I mean,
Yeah, clear up one other thing that came up multiple times, and maybe I'm a little confused on this. Where everybody thought there was only one entrance to this development. Now, we're taking Evergreen all the way through your development. That's still the plan, right?
correct.
So that's an entrance there, and then there's the entrance off of Finnis, right? And then farther up, I can't remember, is that Shady? Yeah, so really there's three entrances to this, right?
Correct.
Okay,
No, you got two to the west, one north, and when the property to the northeast is developed, there'll be another one going that way.
that's what I thought, okay.
Are you gonna use the existing driveway that PI is using?
No,
The road?
so there's two roads coming on Finnis towards our development. We will take the one further to the east. I don't know if we can get the plat, that's what we're trying to do.
Is it Eager or
I'm trying to get to the preliminary plat and
no? No. They can't talk to me.
You could probably just hit 183 on the right.
oh, it's 183. Okay, thank you very much.
Oh,
Wait.
yeah.
189.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, Kevin. Here we
There
go.
So if you look, here's the entrance off of Finnis. It's a boulevarded entrance. Lining up with the road to the north.
Yeah.
Marvin.
Okay, then
Marvin.
scroll up a little bit.
Marvin.
No, the other way. Okay, so there's Evergreen, right?
Yep.
And
And
then,
that goes straight through to the other, or which one's over? Yeah.
yeah, it's that one right
Yeah,
there, then,
yeah.
and
that
that's
goes
one is
straight through.
Shady.
Yeah.
Right?
Shady doesn't go all the way through to court.
I thought the road.
Shady dead ends right now with this property and we're proposing to connect it through.
Right.
One more sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now it ends, but I thought it had a barricade.
The court
Not-
circle.
Not circle. the
Yeah.
streets. Yeah.
Street, right.
Yeah, down the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Short sunrise.
Yeah. All right, I just wanted to clear, because that was mentioned by a number of people, and I thought maybe I missed something or the flat wasn't right.
So any more now I can get into the staff comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do I field questions for you or? Yeah.
Well, no, I think you need to clearly address the staff
Okay.
comments.
I would say we're basically in agreement. Just a FYI, two things. This new plan, we lost 10 lots. And people are talking about, when I say 10 lots, what we've shown the village prior, or this commission prior, and where we are today, we lost 10 lots because of the added stormwater requirements. So that'll give you an example of, that's probably $1.5 million hit to us to make sure we're doing stormwater right. And that'll continue through the plat. The water tower, we've had some good conversations. We think we're on track, that we're all in agreement. Again, what I would emphasize is we will pay every penny of our share of any water tower. I'll just leave it at that because I got some comments later for Brian. I think Brian's still on. So going off the staff responses. One thing from a zoning standpoint, it's mentioned a couple times that we would do the zoning approval with the final plat. We would like to suggest that we do the zoning. We'll have to work some things out with the Kings sooner than later. And the reason we say that is we're going to be asking the village to consider 13-foot side yards versus 25 on corner lots. And the reason is with a smaller lot, we can't give up 25 feet and then 7 feet. So that's 32 feet on an 80-foot lot. It doesn't work. And so we think that requirement is a little outdated in the sense that, you know, that works for 15,000 square foot lots. In our opinion, it doesn't work for a 8,000 square foot lot. Park fees, kind of went over that. I mean, I think that's just a work in progress between consideration of the golf course amenities, future dog park areas. A lot of stuff can go into what we can do on this plat. So just something, you know, I don't think there's anything we need to talk about tonight. Just something that we want to bring up that we need some work on that. Subdivision code, we agree with staff that following the stricter standard does not make sense. Annexations talked about. I believe you have everything you need for the annexation. You've had it for about a month. And I guess we're checking to see where you are with that. Again, not looking for an answer tonight, but Robert Proctor, our attorney, put that together and that was furnished to the village a while back.
Okay, I do have I want some clarification because we've talked about that. So when you say annexation, are you talking about annexation of just the area that phase one? Or are you talking about annexation of the whole 400 acres?
So our preliminary plat takes in the 480 acres.
Okay, so you're gonna, okay,
So we would annex the 480 acres.
okay. I just want a clarification on that.
There's something from zoning. Oh, okay. A comment, this is minor, but it's in the comments, about matching lot lines between 97 and 100, and I forgot what the other one was. So I don't know if we can get the plat back up.
Yep, just hold on one second. I'm just trying to figure out the page number 213.
So scroll down a little bit more. So a comment was made to match 98, 99. That's almost impossible, but we're more than happy to match 97 and 100. And the comment was made that by not matching it, it makes it harder for people to know where to put a fence. You know, in all honesty, you find a lot of lines you put a fence up, so, you know, if the comment was concerned about the fence. You know, matching 97 and 100, that's fine. And so someone just got a little thought if they're doing 99 or 98, I guess. If you could scooch up a little, Carly, please. And to the right. A little more, please. Okay. Scroll up, actually, just a little bit, up and down. Keep going. We need 125, 124, 123, 122. There's a stormwater easement on the back of those lot lines, which we do not have a problem. Staff recommended that being an outlot. We'd really like to keep it as an easement for two reasons. Takes a little burden off the HOA and it keeps it maintained properly. This is a minimal swale. We don't feel an outlot's appropriate or needed. And by having it as a easement, the owners of those 4 lots would have to maintain it for the deed restrictions. You know, HOA, you don't know what's gonna happen, but the deed restrictions will clearly state that the lawn has to be cut twice a month. We just think aesthetically, it's just a better look for the development if that's an easement and not an outline. I don't know if it's appropriate to ask if Brian's on.
I see.
I saw it.
Yeah.
Brian,
What's up?
Hi, Brian. Couple questions for you. A comment was made about easement on side yards. And I guess if you had any thought on that. Again, we just get back to, if we get anything more than the 7-foot required side yard on a normal lot. And we have to start now putting in a 15-foot or something on each lot line to create a 30-foot drainage way between the lots. With these smaller lots, that's gonna be hard.
No, it would be around that. Usually we see either 5+5 or 6+6. It's specifically and only there to preserve a corridor for drainage between homes, downspouts.
Yeah, okay.
So that's all we're looking for. It would stay within whatever the side yard setbacks are. And while we're talking plat, on the version I was looking at, lots 99 and 100 actually were quite closer. So maybe I'm looking at an older one regarding those lot corners. And lastly, on that easement there, without getting into too much weeds, if that was an outlot, the village would anticipate managing and maintaining all of the public stormwater outlots. We can cover that at another time as well. I know you got a lot to get covered.
Okay. And then a couple of comments were made about water piping. And I guess we're just wondering what the thoughts are, Brian, for your comments. We assumed, and we shouldn't do that. I'm glad you're with us tonight, that you're talking about potentially double piping, if you will, to get pipe up to the northern or the properties to the north of Marchstone. And I guess we would just
Correct.
And we would just like to state that if in fact that second pipe's needed for people outside our plat, that would be a village expense. Again, as I stated earlier, we'll pay for everything that was needed for our plat. We don't feel, because it's gonna be expensive, that second parallel water line to service the folks of the north, we don't feel is our responsibility.
Understood.
Go ahead.
I think you said understood.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, understood. I can't really comment on whether or not it would benefit yours, since it hasn't really been laid out yet. And it may be providing redundant supply, but I certainly understand the comment from Jeff, and we just need to get those pipes laid out and determine what sort of benefit it does or doesn't provide.
Brian, you make reference to a paper right away to the borough connection in the town.
Yes.
Are you stating we would be required to replat those, or I guess we're not there yet, but when we plat that area, we're gonna need to reserve a 66-foot road connect or easement, I guess, for any future connection to borough.
That is what I was implying, yes, or trying to state. Mostly wanted to get any of those oddball issues on the table during this preliminary plat phase, for the same reasons some of the other residents commented. We want to just make sure no one gets surprised by that. Knowing that political winds change, community needs change, and looking ahead on the 100-year time frame, which is really what we would strongly recommend that all communities do. There's certainly a greater than 0% chance that those homes may need village sewer and water at some point in the future. And people's moods change 50 years away from now or 75 years from now. And it would be important to at least preserve a public right of way. Whether or not it ever sees brick and mortar would be up to the village, certainly. But on paper, we would suggest that be an important connection to be preserved. It is nothing really to do with this phase. It's just something we want to keep on everybody's radar.
Yeah. There was discussion and I surely understand. Again, in fairness to everybody, I just don't think we need to necessarily, my comment's gonna be on culvert banks. And we're proposing in some areas 4 or 5 pipes under roads to move the stormwater. Brian's suggesting we look at a single pipe instead of those because of clogging that occurred 2018. I get that comment. That was what, probably a 1,000-year storm.
500 years.
Okay, 500-year storm. We're not saying no, but depending on the final design of that, in Adam's opinion, that could be 3 times more expensive than what we're proposing. And it's just something we're gonna look at and further discuss, I guess.
Okay.
Like we talked about earlier, the multi-use path is unfinished. As it should be, and we're happy it's there. And I guess finally, the comment, if the village does not accept the 32-foot street width, with the 10-foot sidewalk, the 66-foot right of way does not work. So, you know, it's kind of all double whammy.
Are we talking about thinness still?
No, we're talking
Okay.
about throughout the plat.
Okay,
There's a comment about the village considering reviewing street widths. Right now, we are 32 feet curved based on a number of streets.
yeah,
There's just a suggestion in here to confirm if this is acceptable. Because we're parking on both streets, the comment is that it makes two-way traffic tight. Parking is.
correct. But, okay. But there's a path there versus sidewalk, a 10-foot path.
There is a path along Lindale Drive.
It's more than that, right?
Well, it is, but yeah, specifically Lindale is one of the streets that are 32 feet face to face. And there is a foot-way path on Lindale Drive so that people could walk along Finnis, Marchstone, and Lindale straight to the.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, okay.
So, you know, as part of our comment is that assumes 10-foot path and a 5-foot sidewalk. Earlier on, we talked about just 10-foot path, no sidewalk on the other side. So we just have to nail that down, see what that looks like. But the village is gonna require 10 feet, more than 32 feet, and 5 feet. It doesn't fit within 66. Right. Which means we have to give up more land, more expense to accommodate that 10-foot path.
If you're gonna look at it, that I think we'll just get a look at those cross sections and what it would do to the terrace. It would be robbing from the terrace, I presume, right, Jeff?
Well, that'd be great. I mean, if the village, I don't know what their minimum requirement is for the terrace. What you're proposing.
I think at minimum in there it gets to 7 feet.
So if the village can, you know, get those terraces down to 5 feet, I don't know if that's enough room for tree planting. But you know, there's just a lot involved with everything involved.
Yeah, our terraces get smaller, 5 feet even. The last path, I think there's some areas that's only, some are right up to the curb.
Right.
And some are 2 feet along Brewery Road. That path, if you look at that.
Okay. So yeah, we might have to get those down to 4 or 5 feet.
Yeah.
If in fact the village thinks 32 is not wide enough.
Yeah, it seems like we'd be at 6 foot terraces just doing the arithmetic, but we don't need to take up time tonight on it.
Very happy. All right, that's all I have. You have anything?
I think you covered comments still, yeah. I think they'll make it.
Well, here's my, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I think it's gonna be really difficult for this group to go through all of those. I mean, let's just talk about the last topic here. Are you looking for this group to come up with what the size of the terrace, because then that would have to adjust your flat, right?
I don't know.
So, you know, because there were so many suggestions and points of discussion yet, you know, even if this would have gone through, it would have been contingent with all this other stuff that's been listed. I personally think, and again, I'm gonna let you guys call it, it's your project, that what we should do is postpone this to August and then try to get as many of these things locked in, so the actual plat that this group approves is closer to what it is with all these comments. Cause I mean, you've talked about the size of the piping, that should really be decided. You're talking about the road width, that clearly should be discussed. I just think there's a lot of things here that I'm not sure what we're approving. Unless we're gonna go through each of this item and this group is gonna make the call. And then the board will go through it all again. Is it better to try to clean up a lot of this? Get it back here with a lot of these answered. We certainly can get that and then approve it that way. But I'm gonna leave that totally up to you. I just don't know if we're gonna speed anything up by approving this with all these conditions, and I'm not comfortable. I think we should have our experts here. Now, Brian can walk us through on all this, but is that what this group wants? Or like you say, you've said you're willing to do this and you're willing to do that. It's a matter of coming up with something and then putting it together. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that was quite a long list.
Well, my thoughts are this.
Okay,
How do we get to that point? Because it seems to me we can take another 30 days and internally, you know, Adam and Brian and
Yeah.
Sonia and Kyle and I are, you know, we can figure it all out there. Then we bring it back to this commission without their input, and all of a sudden, you know, one of you know, with all.
oh no, we'll go out and we'll get the input. The only thing is, my suggestion would be listen to everybody. And then we go with staff and knock out and get agreements on everything, then bring it back to this with those agreements. I'm not sure how many people here knew that there were dual pipes versus single pipe in the plat. You know, I can't read them, I'm not an engineer, you know, I just go, we have our engineer and they made the comment. Then the whole thing with you guys saying 32, I couldn't tell you what. Reading that, I can't tell you what the path was and the sidewalk and the terrace and. You know, that stuff is not my skill set, so we depend on our engineer to work those things out. And then if there's still the conflict in it, then you bring it to the board here, so you bring your case, Brian brings his case on, let's say, the dual pipe, then the group decides it.
Well,
I just, you know, like I say, this is, I don't wanna change your business plan, it's just, there's a whole lot of things here that I think needed. Maybe there's other things that when we go around the room, we'll also, you know, commissioners will have some comments on, so.
Well,
And I think what's really hard with this one, because you can see it is, we really should be focusing really on the plat that's ahead of us, not, you know, the golf course and everything else. But it's almost impossible not to do that, because you know, it's an outlot, but eventually that's gonna get developed, so it kind of goes into it, but it shouldn't be part of this process. We're not gonna approve a golf course tonight.
right.
Right, we're approving 120 lots, right? That's what's made this somewhat more complicated than other ones, so. Again, you know, people here have to, if we're gonna approve this, we're not talking anything about golf course, we're talking about just this plat. That's what it is, but yet your covenants that you gave us actually talks about the golf course. So and I understand why, because you're looking to go broad, but really we're looking at only phase one. For actual action tonight.
Yeah, I mean. There's no issue except time. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So and I don't have a calendar in front of me, but I'm thinking your next managers meeting is after the next planning commission meeting.
No, what I would do is we would in the next couple of weeks bring the people to the table. We don't need to have all staff here. We would have Brian and Sonia, Carly, probably myself.
Yeah.
And then your group, and then we try to work through some of these so it's more defined when it gets here. Those are just my comments on it that I think takes a lot of confusion out, and we pass something and then we come up with something later on that we want to change. It's just a big process then. I guess. What's your thoughts on it?
Again, selfishly from our standpoint, we probably, if that happens, and maybe we were a little too optimistic, we don't start moving dirt this year. That's, and I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just, we optimistically, we're thinking smooth sailing, because it's a great village. And we're gonna move dirt, 30 days probably, and it is what it is, right?
Okay.
Unfortunately, the Keens don't get it closing as quick as they want to, but it is what it is. It's a big project. We acknowledge that. And it's just in this business, it's just time.
Yeah.
And I'm not disagreeing. That's the only downside to what you're suggesting.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, let's just go around and people, you have questions on it. Let's do it, get it on the table. Well, I'm just gonna go in a row, so I'll start here if everybody's okay. Judy?
Yeah, so I feel bad because of what it is. I get that we're only improving the small portion. But we do still have to look at the whole portion because they're not gonna do it if we know that we're never gonna do the golf course. We do have to look at it as, yes, the whole thing as one thing. The only thing that I would ask as a board, we wouldn't ask any different out of them that we did any of our other developments. If we had all the other developments do 2 pipes versus 1 pipe, okay, then that's standard. But why would we ask them to do 2 pipes when we've never asked them, any of the other ones to do 2 pipes?
Yeah.
I just want us to be fair compared to what we've done the other ones. We've done terraces before for 2 feet. So why would we expect them to do bigger terraces? Like we just have to remember what we've done in the past and not change the process. And I do feel bad. They've been here a few times already, so I feel bad. It's like we're sending them back again.
All right, Kevin?
I just want to start with a bit of clarification. When have they been? I know they were at the plan commission in April, March, April. I was not here. I missed it and apologize. Went to the minutes. When else have they been in front of the village?
January.
January.
Mhm.
Has the park commission seen this at all?
I don't believe so.
All right, no, they haven't, I went through, but, generally speaking, as a commissioner and planning commissioner, I see a lot of good in this development. But I see a lot of questions, and I came in here with a lot of questions, and I think I have more now. And the village certainly has a lot of questions as well. I think Jeff, you did a really good job answering them, so thank you for that. I felt like, you've done your homework and done this before, appreciate that. But there's still a lot out there, and I think when we add roughly 20%, I think if I did the math right, to our village population, we need to take some time and think about it, get it right. I appreciate that you understand that part of it as well. So I don't feel bad delaying it from our standpoint. We're doing the job we were assigned or assigned to do. I do think we should spend some time yet today going through some of these details as a group. Because I don't know what you get in staff meetings, but this commission eventually has to approve the plat, and you should hear from us. So let's get to some yeses, or at least cross off some things maybe along the way. And then that's all.
Seth?
So I agree with Kevin's last point there that this is the largest development those that we're seeing, taking another month to get it finalized. But yes, we should provide as much input as we can tonight, so that when you come back in 30 days, something we can vote on. I'm a traffic engineer, so I pay particular interest to some of that related stuff. So just some of the general comments about the path of the street, right of way and school accesses. I've done traffic studies with Taddy, you guys are awesome, so like, they're probably one of the best friends who've been hired to do that, so I don't have any issue with their traffic study either. But it is 7-hour counts, and that's all pretty much standard. One thing that they didn't do that I don't know if anyone really could do is kind of account for how this is gonna change the traffic patterns at the school. Someone mentioned now, some of the people that are going to school are gonna come through this neighborhood as opposed to that existing entrance. And so the study just looked at, here's what we got traffic now, here's where we're gonna add and how much traffic. It's really tough in this situation to figure out, well, yeah, some of the traffic's gonna go out that way, but some of the traffic that's using that route now is gonna go through this neighborhood. You come out on Fitz, especially people coming from the town of Middleton. And so some things might get better, some things might get worse than what they're showing in their study. There's no real perfect way to handle that. As far as the right of way, I would like to see maybe like something, if Evergreen is one of the streets that only has a 33-foot pavement, is that correct?
Evergreen is wider.
Is it wider?
I believe so, yeah. Evergreen should be one of the sections that's wider.
Because it looks like, and seems like most people that would be coming into the school would just take Evergreen, Marchtown up, and vice versa. So that, Lindale, where there's that narrower width, I don't think that's gonna get a lot of traffic. So two-way traffic there is, but I think Marchstone and Evergreen need to be plenty wide to accommodate, vehicular traffic in both ways with parking assumed on both sides. And that's what's, but I think we do have to recognize that this is gonna change a lot of the patterns that are out there now. People that are in the existing neighborhood trying to get to Middleton, this may give you a backdoor route. That may make it better if you're going on Airport Road and trying to get out in front of the school, right? So again, I don't know how you can really handle that in the traffic study. Tammy did a good job. As far as the intersection of Military and Church Street, specifically, yeah, looking at that compact roundabout, traffic operations wise, that would certainly help. It is gonna have an impact on at least one, if not two of the lots there. That's something that the village has to grapple with, and the landowners, if that's something that they want to do. Someone made a comment about the infrastructure put in for a traffic signal. Is that true that at that intersection now they have at least conduit and stuff in to put in a traffic signal if needed?
I don't remember
Yes.
doing it.
Yes.
If possible.
Yes.
Oh, Brian?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the village actually vetted out different configurations there fairly exhaustively in 2015 when Lane designing County P. Doesn't mean attitudes haven't changed certainly, but it was decided to put it in as it was today after that traffic study. But to give the village some flexibility, conduits are in fact in place, and we boxed out underground spaces for poles and above ground for control cabinets if the village ever decides it wants to go that route for full signal.
Okay, because I know they did a warrant, which is something that was studied, like should the traffic signal put in, it was, didn't need a warrant, it doesn't necessarily, you can't do it. So there are kind of, I guess, three options for that intersection. You probably should take a closer look at, or you have Caddy take another look at. So it's a traffic signal option, especially if some of the infrastructure is already in there, because that is going to be a very important aspect of this development. One way or the other is how people are getting in and out at that location. I don't think the traffic on Venice at the Marvin Marchtown intersection is going to be a huge concern. Yes, it's going to add traffic to Airport Road, absolutely. But as far as the operations at that particular intersection, I think that location is good. At midpoint with better sight lines in all directions, you don't have the hill sort of down to this middle school. So I am generally pleased with that exit, but I think that this Military Road intersection needs to be definitely. And then last comment on parks. I understand the wanting to use the driving range, the putting green as parkland, and I have mixed feelings on that. But as far as this first phase, I think there needs to be a dedicated park in there. It doesn't have to be huge, but I would like to see some sort of parkland, because maybe we approve this and you build phase one and something happens and the rest of the phases don't come through. Now we have a neighborhood with no park. I know it's adjacent to the school, say that that's something that, so I just like to look for, if there's opportunities for some dedicated space. Within phase one, I know there's some outlots. Lot for stormwater, I don't know if there's a chance, but I'm thinking like even
We just put one on Evergreen.
right,
Road,
but even
which is-
scenic, like Creek Crossing. That we haven't built the park yet, but that very small piece of grass that's next to one of those stormwater, something that size. If that could be fit in to one of those outlots shown there. That way at least this phase has. Nothing else happens after that, or the next phase takes 10 years. Thank you.
All right, Bill?
All right, Doug Lynn. All right, I agree with, first of all, thank you guys for coming out and giving your comments to the public. I think those are great, they were valuable, I took a ton of notes. I appreciate that. Thank you guys for answering them and coming up with your thoughts. I do have some thoughts, I have concerns. I'm a golfer, I'm a fisherman, I'm not a snowmobiler, sorry. However, I do like the idea of, couple things, talking about the nature part of things. One is ensuring that the Black Earth Creek is protected with development, and that means I know what you guys are doing with the stormwater and all that, and with infiltration, but putting it on black and white so we can give that to these guys and say, this is how we're gonna protect the Black Earth from trout. There's some things that we did in the past that I don't agree with for the trout stream. I think it hurt our trout stream. However, those were done. I don't want to see us hurt that trout stream again, so I just want to make sure that we can at least identify us protecting the Black Earth Creek for the trout stream and for the grade it is. Sometimes.
Can I comment as we say this, or do I?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah.
So Carly, could you go, do we have any idea what page the total development's on? So I guess if you could
Is it
bring up
like on here?
all 480 acres. There's a,
You can see one on page 7.
is that the color one?
Down, I'm sorry, so it's just there.
The PDF 18.
One of these?
No,
that's existing.
Yeah, 2 pages down.
Okay. This one?
Yeah, keep going. Keep going. All the way to the bottom, all the way to 14. Okay, so. Am I right in saying the creek is mostly on the south side of 14?
Correct.
Yes.
Does it cross? Or does it stay on the south side?
It stays until the end of the village and it hits to the north
Okay.
side.
So the beauty of this, of the golf course, is we have, I know for a fact, this is pretty, there's no trees. And we have a great opportunity for a big stormwater management system right there. Because a lot of the water will flow down to this corridor. And again, if you scroll up a little bit, this is relatively flat. So, I mean, we have all sorts of spots. That's the beauty of a golf course, incorporating these water features that take care of the stormwater and do such things as to protect the place.
Okay, I appreciate that. I mean, I think that's really helpful. And I also like the idea of giving residents a deal on developing this person.
Said you were a golfer, right?
Yeah, exactly. I also like the idea of dog park, and these guys will verify or vouch that I've been wanting a dog park in the village for the last 15 years. We haven't gotten that yet. However, I am concerned about a couple things that were mentioned in the document. One, you talk about in this letter that there are all right, I had it, and then I moved the page when we were looking at that stormwater stuff. 48 homes that were going to be, here we go, was that it? Yeah, 46 lots planned for 0 lot line homes. According to our, documentation here, 0 lot lines for townhouses, row houses and that type of thing. Is that what you're planning on putting in?
These would be duplexes.
They would all be duplexes. Okay, and where would, and so going back to the plat map,
Right off the fence.
The purple ones are duplex lots.
let me.
On the colored one.
That probably does it right there. Yeah.
So lots like 62 through.
Well, what you're looking at there is 42 through 62. Well, 62, we could not get the 55-foot minimum. So 62 would be just a standard duplex. But if you looked at 61 and 60,
Yeah.
those would be 0 lot line because they're 55 feet. So they'd meet in the middle, obviously,
Okay,
and then have the proper side yards and so forth. So
so you have 46 lots that were like that. So where are the other ones like 38, 37, 36, 35 those?
So I think it's 14.
Charlie, can you go?
You go to the colored one, it's really easy to see. It's page 20 of our packet.
What page?
20 of our packet. If you go, yeah, it's very easy. There you go. There you go.
Okay,
So everything in purple are duplex lots, and I just, the caveat is. The bottom right one, that's larger, that'll just be that, so right there, kind of the fat one, bottom right, that won't be 0 lot line. And then there's 2 in the northwest corner, by the retention pond, those will not be 0 lot line, but all the other ones will be 0 lot line.
okay. All right, did you say that, Chris, thank you for that. Did you say that the other route coming in would be Shady Circle?
Shady Lane or some sort.
Street.
There's one at Strawberry Pond.
Street.
Yeah, there's 2 of them in that neighborhood that are.
Well, so I see Evergreen Parkway,
Yeah.
right?
You just scroll that up.
And then there's Twin Pine Street and then Shady Circle. Is that the area that we're talking about, where the third road's gonna come in?
It's that one right there.
2 on the left.
The evergreen and then the other one.
Right there. So currently that road is stubbed off. You'd have to turn on Twin Pine and go up and you'd end up on Evergreen anyway. So there's
Okay,
2
so-
connections that would feed Evergreen.
so that's my point. Is Evergreen is already congested at the beginning of school and the end of school, right? Because it's going through Glacier Creek Middle School. So when you were talking about having 3 entrances into the subdivision, you really only have 2 still. You only have.
I counted-
you have this.
We're not looking to pick up kids. If Evergreen is shut down because a tree falls across it,
Right,
and then the entrance, there's a car accident there. They can still come up Shady and get to those houses.
how are they gonna get Shady? There's no access to that other than through Twin Pines and Evergreen.
Well, yeah, well, it depends on where the, if it's at that intersection, they can, right? You
So
can
if this
detour
gets
people.
blocked, you can come this way.
Yeah,
So the requirement is 2 exits. Right? Here's 1, here's 2.
Right. So basically, Finnis and Evergreen are really your 2.
call it 2, yeah, you could do that, but like I say, you can detour around that. It's a short spot.
Depending where the issue is, right?
Right, but if you have a accident right here, that shuts here, people can still come around, right? You still have this coming in, so it counts as one. Is it gonna be used a lot? No, it would only be used if we gotta block off the street here, but you can detour people this way around into that neighborhood. So to me, it's 3
So if,
3 roads going into it.
well, okay, but here's the problem. You got Evergreen and
Yeah.
right now it's already congested twice a day, right?
Over on by Church
Not
Street.
here.
Not here.
No, I understand that, but for these people to get in and out of that subdivision, they gotta get through Evergreen over to Church Street.
No, and if they're gonna leave, well, it depends on where they're going, but if they're leaving their subdivision and they need to go to the village, they'll go this way. But if they're going to Middleton, they'll come right here and out.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, so it's gonna really benefit these folks if they have trips into Middleton.
I think people are gonna wanna take 14 rather than take Airport Road. To get into the.
14.
Oh,
I live.
I take 14 all the time. I mean, I take
Airport.
airport all the time. When I went to the high school at the games, absolutely.
I only take 14 if I've got an extra 10 minutes to spare and I don't care what time I get home. Otherwise, I take 14. I don't take airport unless I'm killing
You're in
time.
this part of the village, you're probably the minority.
Yeah.
I take 14 as opposed to airport.
I live right
off Marvin and I exclusively take airport.
And I live in.
Well, but you guys, you're on that side.
Well, so are they.
All right. You win this one. All right, fine.
Gotta work more mentor if I gotta go. Yeah.
One of the comments made by, somebody was an additional 1,000 vehicles on Airport Road per day. This is what is gonna cause that. I don't know.
It's actually more than that. Spread over there, I mean, their own count showed cap and traffic, but it's like 5,000 additional trips per day. In and out, that's each trip
So-
in or out is one trip.
So are we talking Airport Road or are we talking Finn's?
Well. Then it's like, for the north side of this development. Roughly 2,500 cars on that section of
Finn's.
Venice. Will be expected additional per day from this development at full build up.
So then can our roads handle that much more traffic? As far as, maintenance, road maintenance and that type of thing. I just don't know the answer to that. That'd be an engineer question.
Well, that's what the traffic study did, right?
Yeah.
And it said there's no problem.
That's my understanding.
It acknowledges there's a problem already at E and Church Street. The recommendation is there for the village to explore a roundabout, which it sounds like has been done in 2018, was decided to not go forward at that time.
Right, okay, so.
I mean, Bill, to your point, it's gonna add a lot of traffic. I think the town of Middleton. The town across Plains, like. Those parts of the road are probably more of a concern. Than this, from an operations perspective, but yes, it certainly would add a lot of traffic to that road. Operations wise, I think they've showed the traffic study that it's not causing excessive problems. For some people, any additional traffic is nuisance, understandable. But as far as an operational perspective, they're not showing that it's gonna cause significant problem. Here, like I said, military road, it's exacerbated.
Okay. Okay.
What's the?
I also agree that I would like to see a neighborhood park outside the, just my opinion. That's all.
All right, Tim?
Couple of things, I think a lot of the questions we worry about are handled by experts who do traffic studies, but tell us what to do. I just have a couple of questions about maybe the minor stuff. So in lots 122 through 125, that easement with that. Would you put a covenant in their documents that they can't have no plantings or buildings back there? And that's what got us in 2018. Why you have to correct with storage buildings. It'd be maintained, I like that idea. But yeah.
No problem putting that in the deed.
Nothing that. You talked about some tubes under the road. Instead of put a box culvert work instead, that'd be cheaper.
That's what we're gonna explore, is one of the recommendations to the village engineers to explore the potential for a clear span or a box culvert structure of some kind.
No, they did on Brewery Road, I'm assuming it'd probably be the same.
Yeah.
Concept versus.
Yeah. Yep.
Our current sidewalk ordinance, won't that dictate if there's sidewalk on each side of the street?
No, the sidewalk, if I remember, says the size, they have to be 5 foot, I believe.
On
I
each
think
side
our
of the street?
sidewalks are 5 feet now.
But on each side,
Yes, oh yeah,
okay,
yes.
so I know when you're talking about a sidewalk or.
Well, we swap it out. if you have we're not gonna have them do a sidewalk and a trail, like Brewery Road, we decided to do the pedestrian trail versus a sidewalk.
Because it would fit, okay.
Yeah.
On the double pipe situation, I'm guessing that you're referring to if there's a water tower or storage on the south side of the subdivision, the second pipe going from there to feed the north side of Crossplains. Current would be more of a village.
Yes.
Improvement for current. Yes. But, how far up do you think the golf cart?
I guess what I can tell you is interest in phase one is very strong. I would guarantee you, if we didn't need a water tower, phase two would go next year. So phase two will be happening ASAP. With that in mind, the schedule is kind of pushed back here. I mean, we were optimistically, as every developer is, looking to potentially start tree clearing and grading on the golf course next fall. I think given what's happening, that probably won't happen until spring of 27.
And then is there any thought of the construction roads for that phase goes in, so people currently in phase one aren't affected by all that traffic or not?
You know, I guess what I would tell you is if we go back to the large print, does anybody remember what number that was?
Large, 213.
I
don't think that's it.
Like, I guess what, well, even that, Carly, just you can use that. If you
Okay.
Just scoot to the right or include. Yeah, there you go. You know, what I would tell you is there's no great way to get equipment in and out. What I can tell you though, from the construction standpoint, you know, they'll probably take a week to get everything in there. And then for the majority, that's it. The equipment they need to do the golf course will be on site. And then after that, it'll just be materials.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not a great situation. There will be some going through Marchstone off the airport onto Marchstone to the golf course. But I guess if you look at this, the good news is it's Charlie, if you can scoot just a little bit to the left. They include finish, stop right there. We're gonna go right through Bryan. But I mean, it's literally just right there and then you're on the golf course. So it's not really going on a whole lot of residential side street. It's just on this main road and the golf course is right there. So it does work pretty good.
Can I ask you just a question about that? Is why can't you use the road that is currently used by PI for that?
I think you wouldn't be able to get lots between the schools and their property because it runs the property.
Well, this will all be developed though.
Right, and those are gonna be houses or
Yeah.
duplexes and houses where that road is.
So when we start the golf course, this will all be improved.
Oh, okay.
So there won't be any access down
Yeah.
there.
Over by Rocky Dell.
Oh,
I'm talking Rocky Dell, I'm talking on the east side of the property.
We don't.
They don't own that.
How be getting up to the PI top of the hill now? Because there's a.
no, they're coming straight up here.
Yeah.
They didn't sell that part of the land that.
Oh, they're not.
No, I don't believe they have the shelter part. Is that right?
The Rocky Dell is, where there's 40 or 80 acres in between Rocky Dell.
Yeah, that's a different part of
We're on
it.
the other side of Stagecoach.
That makes.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Sorry.
All right.
And there's one more thing.
Go
for the
ahead.
village would be, I think years past, there's a delayed assessment on Village Street. When that road was done and water's added. I don't know if that's on the deed, or if they searched that or not, but just so you're maybe or maybe not.
There's what?
All in this delayed assessment, when they did Village Street way back when, PI was not annexed in, that was still in the township. So there may be something in some of the documents, there's a delayed assessment for.
Oh, I
street
see.
improvements.
Okay,
And maybe not, maybe they didn't record it or.
that'll be something for legal to
Right, and
research.
that's just going. You need to figure that out.
Joanne?
Okay, everyone talk on me.
Right?
No, things that I am just thinking about as someone who like has a younger family in the village. The thing I love about Cross Plains is that my kids can take off on their bikes and find things to do. And thinking of like in the future, as a family of non-golfers, but maybe I'll be inspired to be, I don't know. Is how can we make this development or like the recreational aspects of this development as multi-use as possible? So like I'd like to know more about what are the options for like the high school cross-country team uses Glacier Creek's course as for their cross-country meets. What's the collaboration that could exist there, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, like how can we work with the snowmobile club to maybe like think about how we can still maintain access? I like the idea of a park. If parkland can't happen, then maybe how could we work in partnership to speed construction of a community pool within walking distance from your development, because that is something we're kind of struggling with. Like we're a little stalled on that. So how can we move that along? If there's not going to be a dedicated park space, we can also sell it as, but you can see the pool from where you're going to build your house and your kids can walk there safely and, have hours and hours of fun. So, and maybe drink some, anyway. And so those are just kind of the things I'm thinking about. I will echo as a school district employee. And someone who works in the secondary level, like we are experiencing kind of a stall or a decline in enrollment. So I view any students we can get in our district as a positive. That is job security for our educators. That is increasing the quality of our district even more. So those are just kind of my thoughts. That's all.
What I would tell you, couple things, we'd be more than happy to work with I assume Middleton has a girls golf team, I know that the boys. Be happy to work with them, we do that currently at Pioneer Point, a lot of the high schools come out and use Pioneer for short game practice, so, and again, this will be happy to work with,
Yes.
and they'll be ecstatic to get on this thing.
Yeah.
Cross country, I think, does the village have a cross country machine?
Ski.
Yeah.
Oh, for lane track,
Yes.
for cross-country skiing.
We'd be more than happy to work with the village for cross country skiing in the winter. And I think snowmobiles will be a tough call.
Yeah.
It's just there's gonna be too many people around and damage to the golf course and, not saying it'd be intentional, but somebody just, a snowy day gets a little off track and they're going through a bunker, next thing you know, they crash their sled and got all sorts of problems, but more than happy to, and from your neighborhood, getting to the pool now, literally you have to jump on Finnis path, get right here. And I mean, it's about as safe as it can be for the folks to be north.
Yeah.
No, I mean, here's the deal, we're developers, right? But again, I'm not trying to boast, you don't do this for 40 years not working with municipalities.
Sure.
Everything you're talking about makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's gotta be fair both ways.
Of course.
We had a park to phase one, we've already lost 10 lots. Now we might be losing another 2 or 1, or again, we don't know how big it is, we don't know where it's going, I get all that.
Yeah.
But if in fact we're gonna lose a couple lots, that's $300,000.
Yeah, yeah.
And the park fee that offsets that, but we've talked about this previously. I mean, we're here trying to get the best deal for us. We understand there's gotta be a huge give and take. And what worries me about getting to the next step is kind of what the struggle's been since day one. How do we get decisions that everyone can be happy with when time is in? We've been going through this now for, I don't know how long, but anyway. I get where we're headed, and that's fine. It's just the concern of, we gotta get to a point where, all right. It may not be great, but this is acceptable to the village, it's acceptable to us, let's go. And, the longer that takes. Time is money.
All right, Kevin wanted to.
Yeah, thanks. Give me a few minutes to put my thoughts together. Much of what was heard already. But Jeff, I guarantee you've never gone to a village or a community and had them add lots, have they?
No.
Okay, so from point one to point two, that happens. Here we are, January, we've seen January, we've seen it April. I think a lot of the community didn't really recognize that, that just seems to happen all the time. It Cross Plains, like, it didn't become a big deal until we'd seen it 2 or 3 times, so. This is maybe that flare up. I don't think we're beyond, this certainly is beyond repair. And I appreciate that you understand the public negotiation aspects of this process as well. So I just wanted to start off with some positives. I'm doing some work, so I'll do it here. This has been slated for development, this property on our plan for a long, long time. And the school district last time, I think, I was an elected official at that time, presented this to us with the numbers from the school districts. And so I think it's a good thing for the schools. Schools have planned for it. Hopefully they're ready for it. And if we didn't do it here, we have developments potentially north on P or west of Village that are going up and that would go up. All of those are going to add to the schools. And anything north is going to add to the traffic as well, right? So that traffic is going to come down, whether it's on Thinnes Street or whether it's north on P or even the newer subdivision up there by what's it called?
Creek Crossing or
Creek Crossing. Yeah, that one has added traffic to Universe or to Airport Road. Anyway, so and the other thing was the water tower, which I'll bring up in a minute. We know that we've seen it. I was on the village board before this. Phase 3, the higher section, right? Or what was it, tier 3, the higher levels of water. That's something that we wouldn't be able to do as a village or wouldn't want to afford ourselves as a village. And so having this development pay for that or help pay for that, something that we would get. So something the village is going to get from this development. So a couple of points, trail connectors and sidewalks. It seems like that's all within reason, and it's that from what the staff meeting or notes say to where we are now, I feel like we've come a long way. I've had ski trails down as well as a potential sort of winter use for the public, where golf season is out. I know that snow is tougher and tougher, but we see it once in a while. The connectivity is important as well. So connecting in and out, I think it is on it. Some places said it wasn't on Thinnes, but on the map, I certainly saw it on Thinnes. Parkland, I definitely would like to see parkland dedicated in here too, somewhere, shape or form. Dog park would be wonderful, right, Bill?
Yep.
Talking about this for at least 10 years. And if I did the numbers right, and I doubt I did, so maybe Brian can help. Parkland dedication fees would be a pretty phenomenal number for this entire subdivision. Like over $3 million. What?
Well, I think it's 2 million.
2 million, okay. $2 to $3 million. If there isn't land dedicated as in our current ordinance, and if we didn't count the golf course, which I'm not in favor of, generally speaking, there were parkland dedication fees were in place to help fund a pool to some degree. I think it's something that we really should consider and you guys should consider as well. I know you like to do that, but that's I think that's sentiment in town. I mentioned water tower. Jeff, you mentioned fair share. Do you have a fair share number in mind?
We've been talking to the village about it.
Who with the village?
It would be me and Carly and Bobby.
And can we talk about what that number might be for the village or how the village is planning to pay?
Since we're in the midst of it, I would prefer not to talk about negotiations.
Well, before we approve the preliminary plat, I hope that that's part of the discussion, even though that is in phase 2, that is something that will be affected by phase 1.
No, there will not. Phase 1 is in the service area right now. So sewer and water are covered. Once we get out of the service area, then that's when it becomes a play. So now you are correct. The 2021 study of the water system did say we should be building a reservoir. But we are in negotiations with a number of things with this project for later on that's outside of phase 1, and I don't think it's appropriate to do it in public. That would be a closed session. I have no problem at some point if you want to get updated in it, but it's really not in
the line of the plan commission. Plan commission is more.
So I
land-
just, as some people are negotiating this point then, Jay, I hope you're negotiating that this subdivision pays part of.
Absolutely. I think we all agree it's a matter of what percentage is what we're talking about and doing the research to come up with a fair.
As I said prior, we pay every penny for every cost for our subdivision. Sewer, water.
And at this point, Jeff, I'm more concerned about how the village is gonna pay their.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
That I want a public session at some point.
Oh, absolutely.
Alright.
But to answer your question, we either have to come down with a down payment or it comes out of our water utility. Those are
our enterprise fund.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how the law is set up. We're not gonna have the police department or parks pay for it, so it comes out of water utility. That's where it comes out. Now, how much can we put as a down payment? How much we have to borrow, where we do it? Those are all things that happen
This
later on.
Understood. This is the gray area where phase 2 is affecting phase 1.
Well, it really isn't,
No,
because we don't need the water tower for phase 1.
they could do phase 1 right now and there would be no,
Never do another development.
yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Development. Yeah.
Traffic, encourage you to look at a light on P, taking a left out of Evergreen to P is. Well, I usually take a right and 2 lefts to get back to where I need to go. Not the only one, but certainly that would be something, there's already an issue there, you gotta be solving the problem, helping solve the problem that's existing, I think that would look good to the team. Water infiltration, I wish we could enforce our 100% water infiltration, but I understand that state tells us that we cannot. All I'm gonna ask is do your best, get as close to 100% as you can. I'll make sure the public knows that we can enforce our own ordinance of 100%. Road access to 14, wow, gosh, that would alleviate so many issues. I just wish we could do it. I just understand the difficulties of it, and I just.
There's about a $10 million hit.
To put a road out to 14 because of all the curb and, or all the
Well,
road access.
you got the intersection cost, that might be a couple million. You got the road to connect to our southern cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
It really can't be used for anything else because of the slope.
Yeah.
We can't get houses on it. So that's what, 2,000 to 3,000 feet. At 1,000 feet, that's 2 or 3 million. We have to relocate the golf course. And we probably lose another $2 or $3 million of lots, because the golf course has to go with it. So I mean, if it's worth, we do it, and then we don't know if they'll accept it. You know, that's probably the bigger plus.
Yeah, it's the US highway.
So I was gonna say, we're stopped like that, regardless.
Yeah. So, you know, we get it.
And then, so then I'll say that the fallback from that is some sort of that, I think Brian mentioned I think he was talking about the right of way, the access to the eastern lot, the town road. Leaving a 66-foot wide right of way in there, for this or for the future phase 2, development, as you think about that. That will help, because I look at all these houses up beyond this, if you do phase 2, that have one access. And then, 2 more, I guess one more. Maintenance of the stormwater, who does the maintenance of the stormwater at our current subdivision? Because there's a lot, you're right, there's a lot of stormwater.
I'll let Brian answer that one, because it's a mixed, I believe.
Generally speaking, the village takes those over after construction and establishment of vegetation. So some of the infiltration areas have some special species that take a couple of years of maintenance before the village takes it over. But for a typical stormwater pond, stormwater piping, swales, those are taken over almost just upon completion by the village. Out of necessity, really, it's very difficult for homeowners associations to stay solvent, to stay active more than 10, 15, 20 years later. So the village has always taken those over.
Yeah, I guess I know that. Well, it is a burden for the village, and I just would ask that the Parks Commission or Mike, our Park and Rec director, be brought into that conversation about the trails, about the park fees, and about the maintenance of stormwater, because I know him and his team, they're doing.
And I think that goes under Public Works.
Oh, yeah.
For the storm. Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha, sorry.
No, that's all right.
Public Works, just to have that conversation, and so the village understands what that will entail for the long-term cost. And then my last little question about sort of a little, take on that one is the lots 122 to 125 with the easement behind. Who's in charge of enforcing that easement, or you said it was a deed restriction?
Well, I mean, that easement will be on the lot will be covered by the deed restriction. Basically, good idea about no plantings.
Yeah.
But you know, more importantly, I think we put in there every lot must be mowed twice a month.
But if they don't do it, who enforces it?
Well, then the HOA has the right to do it and don't.
And then after HOA goes, at some point, then it's on the village to enforce.
I'm not a lawyer,
I don't know.
1,500 lots, I've done deed restrictions for, it's never happened, so I'm hoping it doesn't happen here.
And somebody oversees it myself, I do see it happen. Understood. Thank you.
Okay, Seth?
One follow-up, the trails, point behind your point once, and are there some publicly accessible trails?
Yes.
Like on the edges of the golf course and stuff, I don't remember if there are, I mean, that may be a way to provide some, if it's not dedicated parking, if there are ways you can safely route some publicly accessible trails through the golf course. Maybe that can be part of the agreement where that's in lieu of money or parking, so that might be an amenity that the residents would enjoy.
And typically golf courses and trails don't look at.
Right.
So,
Some of them uses both.
Yeah.
But, and I thought I remember at Pioneer Point, there were some.
so if we could circle back, I know it's not really our intent, or maybe we are gonna do it now, and I'll jump in first, and then I guess we'll go through some of the items for some feedback, but if in fact you wanted a park, what would that look like?
Well, I don't know if you've seen the one on Greenway Cross, I think they're talking about what we would call a neighborhood park. It basically is less than a quarter of an acre, they're very small. And they just have a couple pieces of equipment boxed in. I'm looking at your one that's green. It seems like there's some pretty big areas now, but I don't see any water in them. So along Evergreen there, you got 3 houses and then it's green for a whole block.
I mean, if you could get up the stormwater.
Yeah, right there, outlot
Yeah.
131.
Any idea what the stormwater page is? Because you're gonna see it all goes away.
There's no flat there?
Well, it's all water for infiltration.
Yeah, the colored map isn't exactly outlining where all the water is going to be.
Oh,
In
okay.
general, the outlots graded down into either a swale or a stormwater basin. So
Oh.
the majority of the area is encompassed by slopes for.
And there's like, even on the corner there's no flat part?
There's some small flat spots. I mean, I think if you pull up the grading plan, you can kind of see, but it's possibly a little outdated with this current plat configuration. So.
I thought previously too, at the the managers meeting, Mike flat out said he doesn't want little putts.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
But that's what we're talking, right?
Yeah, so I personally would, if we're gonna put one park in this mean, dog park, near things with easy access. Because what we've had every time we try to put a dog park in, is we try to put it in or next to existing developments. And this one, at least people would know that there's a dog. If you could buffer it, if you needed to, it could be out near thinnest, out near the roadways, somewhere like that. Secondarily, I would say the other place to put it would be as far east and south from the other lot that is there, so it's like
You're not gonna see a dog lot
no, they're not a
in
dog.
phase 1.
No.
Yeah.
Dog park. You won't see a dog park in phase 1. You know, we talked about it at previous meetings, there's some slopes. There's areas we're not developing because of slopes, but I do believe there's some opportunity to sneak in. If you go, a lot of dog parks like the one down the Payo line, that's kind of rough terrain and some ups and downs.
Doesn't need-
Yeah,
doesn't
well,
need to be
we could make it huge.
Yeah.
It's just. It would be expensive to do it right. Because you won't have the land, that's not even an issue, happy to. get that in the village or whatever. But, you know, for the walking trail themselves, to intertwine between the slopes, it would be a challenge. But we have all sorts of land that we're not using. So we could create a big dog park.
A big concern about parking.
Right.
It's the only one in the village, and you got, you know, subdivision. And you got 10 people that has 10 cars, actually. You need to be thinking about that as well. We're putting in that.
Look by us, the park by us, you know, all the bikes come over there and people use that as a party place and we get 15, 20 cars or sometimes.
It's there, we can plan this,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
We can make that decision where.
But your spots on here, in the phase 2, where there's long stretches of road, where there's only homes on one side.
What page on?
I'm on page 20 of the colored one.
Okay, 20 of the packet?
Yeah,
But
20 of the
probably-
packet.
Okay.
And again, just keep going, keep going. It's not in this phase, keep it right there. All that right in there.
That's called a parking lot.
Oh, that's the parking lot?
Clubhouse is right here. This is park.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that doesn't work then.
But, you know, if we scroll right. And then if we go on up, actually, well, first of all, I don't know. The problem's gonna be parking, because we could probably incorporate something down here. And I don't know if street parkings would be acceptable, because they could sneak on right there.
Yeah.
Or if you go up, Carly.
There's a.
And what's the slope of that?
Not great.
Yeah.
But
What's that right there?
Blackbird sucker.
Here,
Yeah, where there's no,
stormwater.
oh, that's all
This
stormwater.
will go here, to here, to here.
Oh.
Ah.
No, I was thinking down there.
Like where Mike
Here?
Yeah,
Steep slope.
real steep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like you're another month. I would just suggest talking to Mike and Parks Commission to see if they on this matter.
Yes. And I would even say like dog park would be more of a priority than a small neighborhood park, because I mean, we do have that Evergreen Parkway Park and say again, like, and a nice awesome pool that you can see.
Yeah, I agree with you there 100%. And wherever we end up with, water reservoir too, you could put it right in that area too. And have a road there and. I don't know, well, like I say, we certainly, but I agree. And Mike's been involved in some of this, but now that we're getting more into the nuts and bolts. So, you wanna go through that list and get people's comments on it, or what do you wanna do?
Sure. I guess we'll start with the 13-foot side yards. Oh, aren't you talking about my comments?
Well, we could do your comments and the engineer's comments and Sonia's comments, whatever you want. I mean, like I say, I think it's like gonna be a lot to take in. It's gonna be a long, but it sounded like you wanted to hear from members, and if members have more on each of these.
Well, I think generally speaking, as I started, we're okay with all the comments except my list,
Oh,
right? Generally speaking.
Your list is off of.
And my list is off of staff's comments.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, from a plat adjustment perspective, we don't see anything major here that's gonna change the plat other than. Well, the road right away width is really just gonna come down to narrowing the terrace essentially, so it really may not affect the plat. And the only other plat that kind of really affects the plat, I'll say, is adjusting the lot lines between 98 and 100 so that there's not a small gap in fence lines, etc.
Can we?
go ahead, Seth.
The road narrowing on your list, or how is that the one that's on?
I believe it is on my list. Yep. So again, I think if we can get some guidance on our list,
Sure.
because I think we're pretty much in agreement with everything else. And I guess the first one is the 13-foot side yards versus 25, only on the corner lots, which there aren't a lot of.
You bring up the.
phase one.
Yes.
And I thought, Brian, you had a comment on that. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, I think I was just looking for those fence lot lines. I would concur with Jeff's comments at 97, 96, 100, 101 is the only one that really would apply. Um, the side yard setbacks for the corner lots is probably more of a Sonia and village policy. So I don't know if you want to show something that you had envisioned there, Jeff.
Well, I guess if you looked at lot, what's our worst one, 98? I like, with 98, what's the back lot line there? Come on, Jay, you're up front.
I'm looking.
Oh, we had 98?
10,130.
No, but
86.
86 feet, rounded up.
86 feet.
86. This one's 85.8, 117, 89, and 99, basically.
So if you have 86 foot and you're gonna take off 25 and 7, 32, you're down a 54-foot footprint. That's pretty hard if you have a garage. Well, first of all, you're not getting a 3-car garage. And you know, if you put 24 feet in for your garage, your house frontage is 30 feet.
So is it on this, is the front of the house on this side or this side?
What?
It's both, it's a street side setback, so it's 25 feet, both
No.
Dale and Hillcroft.
Well, it depends on, if you faced it east and west, the front would be 25 feet. The back would be 7, or the left would be 7. The back would be 25 up by the 98. We're asking on Hillcroft, instead of 25 feet, to have 13 feet. And if you went the other way and faced it north and south, we would be asking 13 feet on the western property line versus 25.
Okay.
So basically, instead of having 25 on both, you reduce one of that.
Well, we'd always keep 25 front and back. It's just the side, what the ordinance states is an interior lot, you can have 7 feet on both sides.
Right.
Okay, and so we're requesting, because if you look, again, on these corner lots, not to beat a dead horse here. You know, with a smaller lot, I'm guessing your ordinance was written. Not really taking into account 8,000 square foot lots.
But, you know, if you have a 0.23 acre lot, to your point, you're not gonna put a 3-car garage in there. More than likely. It's not, with today's covenant, in today's restrictions, you don't have enough room to put a 3-car garage. You got plenty of room to put a 2-car garage.
Well, if
in
you
there.
pick up 12 feet on the side yard, you then just picked up your 3rd-car garage.
But we talked about, very beginning of this meeting, we talked about affordable housing, whatever that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We don't know what that means. It does mean that, you know, if a house costs $300,000 versus costing $250,000, it's more affordable, $250,000.
My garage isn't costing me $50,000.
It may,
Probably cost you 15.
Okay, but
but my
Go
point is, for a smaller lot, it is up to the homeowner to decide what they want for a footprint for a house based on.
Well, why should we restrict it, everybody, when 25 feet? Again, to me, is an ordinance that's been out there for 50 years and doesn't really accommodate the new development model.
I don't know what the new development now.
Well, you're seeing it right here.
I guess we're on coming, so let's just take it as 7, let's just do 7, so it'd be 32 on the one side, so then you have basically 66 feet for a house and garage. The only thing that I'm not really understanding, why we necessarily, if we have setbacks from house to house is 7 feet. I'm not really sure why on a corner lot, we have one that is 25 feet on both sides. So really 3 sides. 3 sides of a corner lot is 25 feet. Right? And the other side's 7, but yet if it was in on the middle there, then it would be only 14 feet. It just doesn't seem real fair, so I don't have a problem with doing the 13 feet. And,
Sonia is on here too, if she wants to provide any
you wanna
commentary.
comment?
Sure, thanks. One of the comments that I left was a request for a intended zoning exhibit overlaid with the lot layout proposed here, because I really could not complete a review of whether these lots comply with any of the existing village zoning ordinances or not, without seeing how that overlies. There was the color exhibit that identifies where some single family lots and some duplex lots are, but it didn't kind of relate to the dimensions that are shown on the exhibit that we're looking at now. And it didn't differentiate between the duplex lots and the zero lot line. So regardless of this detailed conversation, one of my requests is to have that as a condition of approval so that we're making an informed decision and not obligating ourselves to approve a final plat when we don't know whether zoning is viable or not.
With all due respect, all you gotta look at is that colored map and, I mean, use a magic mark.
I can't align the colored map with the dimensions that we're talking about now. I don't know what the intended zoning districts are for the lots that you have numbered. So that would be a simple exhibit to put together to see how they overlie. In terms of the detailed conversation that we're having here now about setbacks, we can only approve zoning using the standard zoning districts that we have, which go up to SR5 in this situation. If you wanted to pursue something different, we'd be looking at a planned development zoning district. And I think we need to know whether that's the intent or not before we submit a final plat so that we can understand what that is. I think this is a useful conversation for that. But the SR5 zoning district absolutely was intended to accommodate lots less than 8,000 square feet. The minimum lot size in the SR5 district is 7,200 square feet. All corner lots in, I think all zoning districts that I'm familiar with typically have a front yard setback. And when it's on the corner, the street yard setback is also the same. So 25 on the front yard and 25 on the street yard. As was mentioned, this will accommodate a buildable envelope. It won't necessarily accommodate a 3-car garage. And I think that's the reality of a lot of that size. But if you did want to seek flexibility in the street yard setback, the only way to do that is to change the code or pursue a different type of zoning district.
Well, we're fine with doing the planned, whatever you call that. You want to do the whole first phase in that plan development zoning. I mean, all we're asking is like 5 lots to have 13 feet. Everything else is perfect. And we just asked for those 5 corner lots to be 13 feet.
Yeah. Plan development zoning has a different process and a longer process. And I think that I could talk with staff and we could establish what that would look like. It's not a guaranteed zoning district. The village would have to kind of weigh the pros and cons of doing it that way.
Well, I mean, with all due respect, again, we would just do the requirements identical to the current zoning. There should be no issues there. It just comes back to 5 corner lots asking for a difference of 25 feet to 13 feet. So it's really not that.
I understand the request. Yep.
But I think she's saying the process. What you're asking is fairly simple, but it's the process to get that done.
Well, it's part of the zoning, right? It'd be a zone. I mean, we need to, that's why I don't want to wait for the final plat. Because, you know, the reality is the builders we've talked to said those corner lots won't work. All right, we already lost 10 lots. Now we're basically going to have to do something with those 5 corner lots. Now we're potentially asking for a lot for a park. You know, it's kind of like, where does it end? Where's the cooperation we're looking for? I don't feel we're getting it on this 13-foot request for 5 lots out of 125.
No, but I think there's a process. So if we're gonna, and she gave you 2 options. The option is changing the zoning, which again, there's a process where you gotta have a public hearing, you gotta bring it to plan, then it goes to, the board or a plan development, but I don't think you, well, I don't think, I think it would be very difficult to do a plan development for 5 lots.
But I guess we're not, we want to
No.
request that, we would do it
Right.
for all 125. And that's why, all I'm purely doing is, per your request, asking to go over our concerns.
Right.
And it just happened to be our number one concern that we talked about earlier was this point.
Right, but what I'm saying is this board tonight can't approve any of that.
That's not the intent of what we're doing now. The intent
Okay.
of what we're doing now is get input from this commission to have guidance, and that's what he directed us to do.
Yep, I'm fine, as long as we all are on the same page on process.
So in his preliminary plat, if those 5 lots are a different color, indicating that, is that a whole different process, or can we just approve it as being,
No,
it's gotta be a zoning?
we have to change the zoning. Or,
It's zone nothing.
it's a zoning thing.
Well, we're bringing all these other ones as
Can they ask
residential.
for variance?
We
If
request,
there's-
we can't request a variance from 25-foot street yards to 13. Plan commission approved variance
Right.
to that.
There's probably, okay, you guys are getting, you're right, there could be, I don't know all the options for you, all right? All I'm saying is this board tonight can't do it.
And again, we're not asking for
Okay.
any process to be approved.
Right,
If everybody here says no, 25 feet, well, at least we'll know what we do.
Mm-hmm.
But if, if the feeling of the commission is, yeah, 13 feet seems reasonable. At least we have that guidance to then submit zoning
yeah,
to abide by that.
we can certainly do that. Go ahead,
What? I don't have.
do you have a,
I don't.
do you have your, that's what I'm saying, do you have a feeling that to go from 25 to 13? I mean, that's what he's asking.
I mean, I also hate yard work, so. What's the line?
Oh, well, you can be neutral on it.
I'm
There's nothing
neutral,
wrong with
I
that.
don't really, it doesn't really.
I think we're fine, they know it up front. The builder knows it up
Yeah.
front, everybody knows it when they buy it. That's the key thing, right?
Okay,
What?
hold it, Bill.
So I don't have a problem with that. I just want us to follow our processes that we have.
Absolutely.
That's
And
all.
we're not asking anything different.
Well, yes, you are. Because these 5 lots, I think this 99, 98, 106, 109, and 88 are the 5 that you're talking about, right?
No, it'd be 98, 106, 109. What else? And then we go down.
They're spread out.
88 is one.
Yeah,
One ten.
But I guess, Bill, the question is, would you be in favor of going from 25 to 13 on a side lot?
As long as we follow the process within the village
Okay,
of zoning, I'm fine with that. I'm okay with it.
okay, Seth,
If we did that with the, would it be in the plat showing which one's 13 and which one's 25, or would that be up to the landowner that one would be considered 25, they get to kind of pick which street?
it would all, if it's a planned development, then they would be named
If
the
it's not,
lot. If it's a
very,
variance, then they would identify what the lots would.
And I would guess it'd be a comment on the final plan.
that's my issue is that I don't necessarily have a concern with one of them being 15 feet. I'm trying to think of anywhere where we have buildings that have a 13-foot setback from the edge of the right of way, just for us to kind of understand what that looks like. And then, as long as there's not any issues with, site triangles or things like that at intersections, I generally don't have a concern with them seeking a 13-foot setback on one side. But ideally, it would be, we could figure out which side that makes sense and not just be, well, when they come to build, then they get to decide which one's the front yard, which one's the side yard, or where the 13 feet's gonna go. I'd like to have it set like, okay, this street is the side yard for 13, this is the front with the 25, this is where the driveway's gonna go. So we kind of have that.
Well, with all due respect, the lots that we don't need a variance, you don't have that control.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So-
If we're gonna grant the variance,
I mean, I guess, why does it matter?
does it help us see if there's?
Well, it would clearly on your view for traffic.
Well, it
It
just
depends on what corner, you know what I'm saying? If it's the one going this way, then you'd have to look at, does it block someone coming out of the circle looking. If it's the other one, then it's the other way around. So it does have some on your view shed of your traffic triangle.
Well, I think-
Aren't those road setbacks, that side yard setbacks?
Already there.
Yeah, the road setbacks are there, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I have no problem.
All right, Judy?
I don't have a problem with that, and I would hope we could do it as a variance, just to get it done easier.
But just
And we did do some up at the, Creekside, remember, cause when they couldn't get their 2-car garages in, we already had to do a bunch of adjusting for a different development, so again, we've done adjustments before.
all right, I would be okay with it too. Like I say, we gotta kind of, if it's a variance that has to go through zoning board of appeal, that's a different story than actually going through the process. So we just have to learn the process, and Jeff, you gotta be informed on what process and what you would want to go through.
Fair enough.
All right, what's your next one?
You know, I guess if the, maybe I'm just misinterpreting what's going on, but if, somebody can get back to us where the annexation's at, we'd appreciate it.
We needed a sign off from PI on it. There was a signature line from PI.
So everything's okay except for that signature?
So that signature has to happen before we can begin our
Yeah.
process. Yep.
Okay. You guys are uncomfortable until we were further along, which is more than fair. If you don't want to next, if you don't.
There was some stipulations on that.
Okay, yeah, we'll figure that. If the ball's in our court, we will.
Yeah, I don't know if you can do a stipulation on an annexation.
Yeah.
You can do it on your agreement with him, but I don't think you can do an annexation stipulated on this. I don't believe that you're going through a different.
Yeah, I'll circle back on our end too, just to make sure
Sure.
there's nothing we're missing,
Yeah.
but
Back lot lines we talked about, fine. You know, I guess some guidance on the stormwater on the backs of 122 to 125. Again, we'd like that as an easement.
Hey, Brian, can you, I'm kind
I
of.
think we just need to know, it appeared to me that that's actually a stormwater pond, not like a drainage way. Am I seeing that correctly?
It is intended to serve as a pond, but it's a dry detention basin, so it's essentially an enlarged swale. With a pipe out.
But it's there for rate control?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. So there are some maintenance components with it.
Sure, it would be very unusual, unless you guys are planning on taking over all of the stormwater management for some of the rate control ponds to be privately held and others to be publicly held and maintained. So it just seems a little clunky. It's and hard to track generations from now. I meant, is your design far enough along, Adam, that, I mean, there's just no other place to put that on any of the, like that's to make up that volume?
Yeah, I mean, it's generally partially a trade-off to try to get us close to that 100% stay on as we can here with some of these components, but it's something that we can play with the numbers here and see if it can be taken out from a rate perspective.
I would think it'd be cumbersome, Brian, if it was the other way around. If we were doing everything else and you just had to do this little area, we're actually taking work away from the village.
Yeah, it's just a tale as old as time that 40 years from now, something's going to get plugged and people are going to call Village Hall to fix it. And it's going to be just unusual to / uncomfortable to tell those residents to recreate their HOA. That's why we just don't see it very often. I think for you guys have a decent sized list and the group's been chatting for a good amount of time here. I guess I would suggest we can look at it and get a little more information from your team on it. And I don't know that we need to or want to resolve it tonight because I have a good amount of technical questions on how it's different than Outlot 131, for example.
Can we be
I'm not going to be able to provide real good advice to the Plan Commission tonight.
couldn't the lot owners be responsible for the maintenance
and the village be responsible for the outflow pipe?
In theory, yes. But I mean, just little things like if somebody puts a shed in it, the village does not have control over the covenants. We don't. Those are private property to private property owner, and if it's storage based, we don't want anything in it. So there are fences. If it's a HOA owned thing, the village gets fence permit requests, and it's just a bit unusual. And I don't know that it's something a hill the village wants to die on, but it's unusual enough that I have enough questions that I think I would suggest we put an asterisk in it for tonight. And maybe it's as benign as you're presenting it, but I need to know a little bit more about the arithmetic behind it.
What does the village maintenance of that look like? Is it weekly? Is it twice a month? Is it every other month? You know, I worry about, as much as you're worried about the lot owners, we worry about the village. How often is that going to be met?
Yeah, so that's another good reason to probably put a pin in it. If that's important, then it would have to get codified somehow.
Well,
It
again,
would generally be equivalent to
okay.
a twice a month mow. But I don't think we're to that level of granularity for that preliminary plat yet.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is why I jumped in earlier too. It's really about enforcement authority, and once HOA is not enforcing it at some point, 40 years from now, I think assigning the village as a secondary enforcer of that would probably solve the issue. Whether it be via easement or some other documentation. I'm not saying we want to take on more, but if we can enforce that the landowners do it, and if there's a pipe issue, that we have the ability to go in there and take care of emergency issues.
Or I guess why can't we do it, and if the village has to go in, they just do an assessment on the property owners?
I'm not sure, well,
I mean, it's gotta be, if it's part of the stormwater system, we have an easement, so we have the right to go back there and clean it, and why can't we?
Right now, we don't have these. So
Well, I thought this whole thing, no, I thought their plan was to give us easement. And Brian's position is, no, we should have ownership of it. That's what I think the debate is, right?
He's proposing to add that in the covenants. We already have the 25-foot stormwater easement from the plat.
Right, but Brian's position is it should not be an easement, it should be an outlet. That's what I'm hearing. So it's village owned versus an easement to it from the village, right?
Correct.
Okay.
so if we have the easement for storage facilities, I believe the village always has the ability to go in there and do what they need to do.
Well, that's what I would certainly.
Okay, I think we're in agreement that we're close.
Yeah.
Does
Agreed.
the difference if it became an outlet, does that affect your rear setback then? And
Well, you know, yeah, it does.
just
Yes.
raise the issue.
Yes.
Yeah, if it's an, I mean, it makes the lot small.
Right.
And if there's a minimum requirement for the width of an outline, things like that, and change the layout.
Brian, do you know the minimum width on, outlet?
No.
I'm not. I don't think there is a minimum width for an outlet, but these are all great points that I think could be. If I had 30 minutes with Adam, I think we could hash out.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about the 7-foot or the stormwater easement on the side yard, so that's good. You know, I guess a big one will be water piping. To piggyback off what Judy said, the village needs to be consistent, we agree. But if in fact there's not history, I guess is where we're at. If there's not history of a developer paying for 2 pipes and it's to serve a property outside our plat, we would want the village to cover that cost.
Just while we have not done a 2-pipe system, because this would be the first time we'd be trying to go to a 2-zone, since we're putting up all water reservoir. We have in the 2 newest developments, made them put in larger pipe for future development. So there is planning on the village side to get it so when the next development, we're not shutting ourselves down. Now, Brian can probably talk about it, or Sonia. Now, there's something in there that the developer, if another development goes in, they have to pay the developer some of the money because of that. But Creek Crossing, we put in a larger one, and then Scenic Valley. And that's the same thing with the lift station. The lift station at Scenic Valley is larger than what was needed for that, for anticipation of growth. So there is that part of it that is there. So you're right, we haven't ever done a double, but we have done bigger, and it's, to me, they kind of lie in somewhat of the same, but that is something we can certainly talk about, and certainly you shouldn't have to pay 100% of it.
Yeah, all I meant was, that hasn't been laid out and hasn't been analyzed, so I don't know that it's 100% anybody's benefit, or 0% anybody's benefit. So the premise of Jeff's concern is, yeah, I follow it. And Judy's point, yes, the village is always avoiding or trying to break precedent. It's that's the business you're in as a community. So very sensitive to those items. It just hasn't been looked at. So it'd be very premature to declare that it's 100% not helping this Marchstone neighborhood, and be way premature to say it's 100% helping Marchstone. So there's some balance there to be looked at that hasn't even been looked at.
So Adam and Brian. Yeah, you don't have what you need, and I get that, but that's all part of, I guess. We need to take sooner than later, have our next water tower meeting. Because obviously, that water tower is impacting phase one.
Potentially, potentially.
Yeah, and so, there's a lot to do in the next 30 days. And so
Yeah.
I would only ask that we, within the next week, hopefully, get together from the small group for the water tower discussion, and then the other small group, well, maybe it's the same people. I don't know if we were doing it at the manager's level or what we're gonna do. But we were gonna try to go over most of these things at I don't know, again, if it's just Brian, Sonia, us, whatever, or if it's more people involved and things like that. So I guess we would just only ask that we try to get that meeting set up in the next 7 days, because then Brian and Adam are gonna have a lot of work to figure out what they're proposing is reasonable.
Are there other ones you want the group wants to give their feedback? So
Again, a lot of this stuff. Is it fair to say the village has all they need from a stormwater standpoint to, or we don't have everything we need from a stormwater analysis on the piping versus a signal? So I guess we could ask you, Brian, if that's, what's your question? Aluminum?
Well, is concrete the only, possible solution for that clear span structure? Would a aluminum, precast box culvert, something like that be acceptable?
Definitely something that would be considered. Matt Cooey, the public facilities director, has some background with those. Definitely worth talking about.
Okay. So
that would be public works.
And I guess, are we in agreement that we'll keep right-of-ways at 66 feet? And if adjustments need to be made, they're gonna be in the terrace?
That was what I contemplated, yes.
So the terrace, where we had that 10-foot path. And the 32 street foot width, what were the terraces?
7 feet.
And our main concern, it seemed like the terrace has been plowing snow on them, so It seems like it's a lot wider than some other places with plowing snow. So that, being able to reduce that 7 feet a little bit to accommodate a wide machines is reasonable. Just want to make sure that it wasn't already too.
Right, and I'm afraid to bring this one up because I think we're gonna be a loser on this one, and that's okay. But Jay, in this session right here, you made the comment that we did not need sidewalk when we had the 10 foot.
Yeah, we've never made them do sidewalk and.
Oh, you're talking on the same side.
Yes. Yeah.
He's going, boy, he's giving in on that.
No,
I'm gonna cross that one.
I'm sorry, I was clear. I was trying to make it one or the other.
You could see who's paying the bills, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I think that's really it. So again, we're really not that far off. It's just, we need to get over 2, 3, 4 major items.
Bill?
No longer talking about that all. No, anyhow, I'll just talk loud.
Battery might have died.
Oh, okay. It's not for you guys, actually. This is more for Sonia and for this group. Is one of the things that came from this plat review was the water infiltration. Our ordinance 65.14 B6 says 100%. Wisconsin statute 281.33 says 90%. We as a group, and Sonia, however we want to do this, we should marry the two up at some point and get that
To
resolved.
be honest with you, 3 years ago, I thought we did that. I thought for sure we did it and it must have not made it. Don't you remember?
I thought we did.
Yeah, I thought we already did
Happy to
it.
see it still.
I know, I was surprised when I read it, it said 100%. I said, well, that's not, I think that maybe it's 5 years. We clearly, when that statute changed, and I want to say it was Creek Crossing
Was it Bill
or
Chang?
Sundance.
I don't think it was when Bill Chang was.
Yeah, it could have been that far
Where we
back.
did it was
Side checks.
Which was?
Wasn't it side checks? What's that up there?
Yeah, it's Creek Crossing.
That is Creek.
Wait, no.
No.
Scenic Valley.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Who knows?
Can we bring it up to another planning meeting?
Yes, we can do that, and we can
Yes.
check the records. Like I said, I'm pretty positive.
Okay.
I'll dig into that. I'll figure it out.
Well,
So to be clear, they should both be 90% to match the state.
Well, ours needs to go.
Ours needs to go to 90.
I can
'cause
still
we can't
remember
enforce
the
it.
arguments that if a car drives down the road, it's taken, you can never get 100%.
Yeah.
It's impossible. That, I just remember that, someone brought that up. Well, cars driving down there taking the water.
I just don't want these guys to have to worry that,
No,
you know, that we're requiring 100% state statute, 90%. I want us to be in compliance, so.
absolutely, it's fair.
Mhm.
All right, any other comments? So. Is I just, again, so I'm kind of reading between the lines, we want to postpone this to August and then we try to get through all this stuff. So when we come back here, we give them and then they decide one way or the other.
I'm
Bill?
sorry, I got one more thing. So I did a little research on the fertilizer, and there was a research. There it is. A 2025 population-based study in Minnesota, Wisconsin found residents living within approximately a mile of golf course had about 2 times higher odds of Parkinson's disease, with risk greater for groundwater was vulnerable to contaminants. If we can get something from Dr. Paul Folk.
He put a letter out on that, he sent it to you.
Yeah, if we can get,
I think either the first line or the last line of that study says it's abuse.
okay, if we can get that to Carly can get that to us, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Great. That's all. For sure.
All right, are everybody kind of comfortable? So if I can have a motion to postpone this item to the, August meeting.
I'll make a motion to postpone this to our August village board meeting. Or wait,
Plan commission.
Plan, yes.
Yeah, we're not bored yet.
No, we're still there.
All right. Do I have a second?
It's a possible action, and say words.
What if they?
Well, I, in Jeff's fairness, if we don't set a date, then
Yeah.
doesn't actually, I think in all fairness, we should set the date and that's the guideline. If you don't take any action, then we have forever. So I think it's important, to set a time.
You want me to say August 4th?
Well, our next plan commission is, yeah.
If for some reason everything came together sooner, can they can move further? Can they have a special plan meeting to adopt?
We could do that, but those are, it's hard sometimes to get everybody. It's summertime. But it's always a possibility. I don't wanna, we'll just see how things go, but I think once we have our discussion, there might be some work that needs to be done. And you're talking about 4 weeks for meeting again.
I would just adopt or maybe an amendment to your motion to, or sooner if applicable. If you can put a date of August
No.
4th.
Oh, I didn't put the date on there.
No,
Oh,
he just
okay.
said, hers was the next plan commission meeting, so if we
That
call a
covers
special one,
It would
we're
be-
still within the line. That's why I don't put a date in.
If they're ready.
Yeah. It's all gonna be, all the motion is to postpone this to the next plan commission meeting. It's a very simple motion. It plays into everybody's concern. If we settle it tomorrow, next week we have a plan, that's fine. But it all fits in with the motion. Did I have a second?
There was no
I
second.
will second.
Thank you.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second discussion. All right, all in favor, say aye.
There's
Aye. All opposed, same. So move. Right.
Quick question, I assume then we don't go in front of the board on the 28th, whenever that date is.
Unless we do something in between. That would be correct. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
No.
There's still one more item.
I gotta get up more.
This one, I hope isn't gonna take too long,
I
because
think it'll be really quick.
yeah, I'm hoping.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We had a big discussion last time. So the third one is discussion and possible action regarding village comprehensive plan survey distribution. Basically, if you remember, the only modification that came from last week was putting in if people who's doing the survey, if they're residents or non-resident. Otherwise, everything else stayed the same.
There was one additional thing,
Oh.
sorry, Jay. On page 273, the Sustainability Committee wanted to add an additional question. So I'll just show you what that is. So we put it in here. They just wanted to add this question. So this is a kind of all sustainability related. What is your level of support?
Yeah.
So this one was just, they wanted to have meet 80% of the village's operational electricity needs with renewable energy in 10 years.
Okay.
So they just wanted
And
to add
that's out of
that.
their master plan.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that was the only other change.
Section 3.
Section what? 3.
Yep.
Yeah, those check boxes and the list on the left are missing, so just something.
Oh, yeah, I'll make sure. This is actually not the online version. This is for those that would print it and fill it out, but we'll make sure that it looks
Yeah,
better.
that one is too high.
Yeah, so these all are messed up. Yeah, I see that because there's an extra box. Okay, thank you.
If they're selecting fast food restaurants.
Got it.
All right.
Noted. We'll make that change.
So we're good with that. So here's the plan. We're getting out the newsletter. They're due on Wednesday. I'll have a big piece on there.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll have
it on.
something on there.
And as soon as the newsletter hits the website, then we'll put this on.
Mhm.
And the same time, I'll have Becky send everybody to your committees, everybody on all the committees and everything with the idea, take it, plus pass it on to any serve lister. So try to encourage, members to get the word out. I'm gonna, I was hoping Elizabeth I thought she was gonna be at the library today, but we should check.
She'll
make
be in
sure
on
we can
Wednesday.
Have some hard copies there.
Yep.
And we should have some hard copies here.
Yep, we will. So that's what
Okay.
this is. This is the printed version. Everything else is going to be on a Google form.
All right.
So people just click the survey link.
Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yep.
All right, so, I guess, do you want to do a motion with those changes or?
We don't need to.
No,
You
Well,
approved them
we did
already.
approve.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure. Everybody's cool with it and everybody's cool with that plan?
Yeah.
All right,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Now,
Yeah,
motion to adjourn.
all right. We got a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
It is.